right, man. Ken Kraus, welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate it. United States Marine Corps veteran, did all that stuff. Well known. I brought you on today because you were part of the 1979 Iranian Revolution. You were taken hostage and all that wild stuff. But I want to start, before we get to that, I want to figure out, more about you. I understand you're from Pennsylvania. What drove you to join the Marine Corps?
Well, it's basically I was born and raised in New Jersey, South Jersey, just across the river from Philadelphia. So, I mean, what you pick. It's just that.
I thought you were from Lansdale. I thought that's what I had written down.
That's true. That's where my mom and sisters were living. And I basically, when I came home from Iran, long story short, I was reapplied. I mean, restationed at the Naval Air Station at Willow Grove, Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
So basically, I was just living at home at my mom's house so the Marine Corps could figure out what they wanted to do with me, because they weren't going to post me back out to embassy duty, of course.
Yeah.
So that's where all the news and everything came, and we were living at that time. So it just went out that I was from Lansdale, Pennsylvania, but really I'm from South Jersey.
Oh, Jersey guy. All right. So what made you want to join the Marine Corps then?
Well, I come from a military family. My dad was a World War II Korea Vietnam vet in the Navy, and so was both his brothers, my uncles. So I mean, I had a military background, and then went to Catholic school, of course, and that right there about as paramilitary in the elementary school as you can get. And,
how did your dad ever tell you about World War II and being in the Navy?
Just a couple of stories that were there. What he did in the Navy, but basically he was a combat storekeeper, and then he went into combat construction Seabees. And some of the stories I heard him talk to my uncles about was in the Pacific, because they put him over in the Pacific. He was first generation German. I don't know why they should have put him over Germany, but anyway, some of the stories that I overheard when I was a young kid is that. Some of the things he was doing when he was assigned to the grave registration and just digging holes and digging the graves of Americans and Japanese on island by island by island. And it was really, shocking to listen to that and realize what he did. So actually battles that he was in Okinawa and other ones, no, he wouldn't talk too much about them.
That's crazy, man. I have a buddy, I've talked about him on the podcast. He's been on a couple times. He was in the Battle of Fallujah, Michael Hanthorne, and he was doing, what did they call it? Casualty. He was basically cleaning up dead insurgents for like a month. Yep. And he was like, as they were going house to house, clearing houses out, they were right behind them, pulling dead bodies out of the house. And that's all he did. They got assigned to do that. And I think he said his platoon cleaned up like over 600 bodies in that month, and I'm like, dude, that's so fucked, And most of the guys and girls had severe PTSD, and a lot of them got out of the military because of it. Because I mean, how could you not after something like that,
You can't train for that, sir. You can't train your mind. You can train to expect it, but when you actually see it and smell it, and oh my God, it's crazy. But anyway, to get back to your questions, how I got in the military. My dad passed away in 1972, and it was devastating from cancer, and it really screwed up my life. And before then, I was a real good straight A student, no problems with sports or anything. And two things really drove me to where I ended up being, and one was my mom wanted me to get me off the streets of near Philadelphia and whatever. It was 1972, 73, and I had basically a wrestling scholarship, or reduced scholarship to Valley Forge Military Academy in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And because we were able to do that, I think it was a godsend, because it kept me out of the street, kept me away from the gangs, and I had a chip on my shoulder. And in the book that I write about, I was having a problem. So they sent me to the military academy, very prestigious military academy, by the way. They made that movie Taps.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
Scott, and Tom Cruise's very first movie with Sean Penn. And the
classic.
That movie, they changed the name from Valley Forge Military Academy to Bunker Hill. But I was there when when I came back in '79. They were shooting some of the scenes. It was really kind of neat.
That is cool.
But anyway, 1973 came around, and for the economy overall, the Yom Kippur War in the Middle East, started up, and the Arabs overran or almost overran Israel, and because we supported Israel in that, they cut the OPEC cut the oil valves, back. We went from 55 cents a gallon to $3 a gallon, and it crippled the country. You couldn't find a job. You couldn't anywhere. I mean, airline pilots were, furloughed, and it was a bear to try to find any kind of work out there. So when I graduated in '74, I'm looking for, where to go to find a job. And so Vietnam had not fallen yet. We had lost or given up Saigon, the embassy in Saigon, until April of '75. So when I was looking at it, they were winding down Vietnam, and peace with honor thing, whatever they wanted to call it. And so I thought it was a good time to join the military at the point. It's funny because I went down to the AFI station in Philadelphia one afternoon just to ask questions and things like that. Both my brother-in-laws were veterans and had served in Vietnam. So they had given me some advice when I went down there. And it was weird because I got down there at lunchtime, and long story short, the AFI station had all of the 5 branches represented there in their office. And I guess one day out of the 5, they always had one NCO or one recruiter for the most part, always manning the offices while everybody went out to lunch. So I went in there, and I just sat down, and that happened to be that day was a Marine sergeant that sat down, and of course, he gets you a cup of coffee. What can I do? And next thing you know, you're looking at the blues, you're looking at places where they're going to send you, what you can do, and travel to all the exotic, land places in the world, meet new, fun people, and kill them.
It's funny. I've interviewed multiple people that had only joined the Marine Corps because that's who the recruiter was that was in their office. Nobody else was in the office.
That's a fact, sir.
So for all the recruiters out there, never leave your office. You have to live there now.
So I said I was very staunch on saying, look, I took the ASVAB test, I blew it out of the water. I'm not smart, but I just know how to take tests. Valley Forge Military Academy showed me how to take a test. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I scored off the chart, and he said you could be just about anything you wanted to be if you had a college education. Hell, that's what I'm looking to get. I said we can make you anything, and I said, well, I need to get a contract signed. Something that I don't want to go in there, just driving around in tanks, painting tanks for 4 years and get out and have, no job skills. So, basically I got he talked me into, he was in the air wing before he went in recruiting. And so he showed me, spots and things that I could be once I got in the air wing. So I was air 7041, 7111, air traffic controller when I went in, guaranteed. Now, that being said, you have to pass the schools. You got to pass all your A schools, B schools, or you flunk out. Your ass still belongs to them for the length of that contract.
Yeah.
They'll put you where they want you. So it's an incentive to do well and graduate. So with that, also the funny thing is that at the time, this was 1974. Okay, about October, I could go in on a 90-day. Delayed enlistment, which is good because I wanted to spend my last Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas at home, the January '75 start. So, my hat will say, 75, but really, 3 months earlier, no big deal. And I knew that I was also told or informed from brother-in-laws and whatnot that I didn't have to go to Parris Island. It's almost a guaranteed thing that if you were joined the Marine Corps, enlisted or drafted, that you had to go, if you east of the Mississippi, you're going to end up in Parris Island, South Carolina. And heard a lot of nightmare stories about that, saw some of those movies, and I go, is there any place else we can deal with this shit? So he said, no, we have a certain amount of billets that they can every month if you want to. West of the Mississippi, you can go to San Diego. So, did you want sand fleas and chiggers and swamps and heat and all that stuff, where you get the same training and become the same qualifications to become a Marine. And I said, how in San Diego? It's nice and sunny. It's you got the mountains out there. Never been there before. I've never been out of New Jersey for the most part, up until that time. So I said, yeah, I'll take that. So that's where I went to boot camp out.
That's
I was
wild.
Hollywood Marine.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. I actually requested Parris Island because I had read about it. All the books I'd read about with Carlos Hathcock, who's a sniper, Chesty Puller, You know,
He's in my book.
the famous chesty puller. Yeah, he went to Paris Island, and he was actually a drill instructor at Paris Island. So all these things, I was like, you know, this is like a historic place. I want to go there. So I told my recruiter, because I'm from Indiana, and anybody that lives in Indiana normally goes to San Diego. And even though we're east of the Mississippi, that was always kind of a weird thing. So I told my recruiter, I was like, hey, I want to go to Paris Island. And he's like, well, you know, there has to be a reason that we send you there, rather than they're not just going to send you. He's like, so write me a 1-page paper about how a family member of yours went to Paris Island and now you want to follow in their footsteps. He's like, I don't care if they actually did or not, just write the paper. And I was like, exactly. Oh, honor, courage, and commitment starts early. Like, here we go. Learn to work the system. And so he had me do that, and I went to Paris Island, and I went there at the beginning of summer and spent the entire summer dealing with the things you spoke about. Yeah, it was miserable.
Funny you should say that, Justin, because I didn't want to go down there. And then once I went to my A school, you know, in Meridian, Mississippi, in Memphis. And he said that was really kind of neat. And to graduate, where do you think they sent my happy ass?
Oh, no way. Did you go to Beaufort?
Beaufort. I think it was MAG 31, Marine Air Station, Marine Corps Air Station, Beaufort, South Carolina.
That's funny.
And I looked over and said, right across the river.
Yeah, right next to each other, for those that don't know.
God. So, yeah, what a hole in the wall. Damn, man.
It's not a bad place, though. You know, it's a nice place. It's just, in the summertime, the heat and humidity is so much. I mean, it's so bad. It was not good.
I saw a coyote chasing a rabbit, and they were both walking. It was that hot.
We got there, and I remember our drill instructors were like, you fucking bitches came at the worst time of the year. Some of you are going to die, you know? And it was like, oh, man, this is going to suck.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. And I believed them.
What was, so you joined right after Vietnam ended. This is kind of similar to people that are joining now that the global war on terror was over. A lot of people were getting out, or a lot of people were hesitant to join now because they're like, hey, there's no war going on. Like, what am I joining for? You know, did that ever kind of cross your mind? Was there any kind of weird post-Vietnam vibes in the Marine Corps at the time?
Well, Saigon hadn't fallen yet, but we were pulling it back. Okay.
Okay.
So basically, for, you know, all intents and purposes, yeah, it was over, technically. And they were pulling me back, which I thought was a good deal because I wasn't looking to go into the grunts. You know, I wasn't looking to get shot at, per se. If I probably would not have even joined the Marine Corps if the Navy recruiter or someone else was sitting in their office that day. As long as somebody gave me a good contract with a job, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, to serve is what I was looking for and was proud of. You know, for the most part. But no, it's. Going in, I had just about ready, almost signed up for the draft. Had to sign up for the draft, but then when they stopped the draft, I was just so happy that day. But when they talk about going to a war, I was in boot camp when the Mayaguez, if you Google that, it was a ship that was taken off of Khao Thai Island near Cambodia, I believe, and we were in boot camp at the time. I think it was March or April when they took the ships. And what was it? The Khmer Rouge?
Khmer Rouge, yeah, Cambodia.
Yeah, and captured the ship with everybody aboard it, and it was a merchant ship, and American, sailors and merchant marine. So anyway, we had we got to listen to some of the broadcast of where they had an amphibious operation where we go in and and rescue them. So when you say there's no war going on, I mean you want to get on paper and say that Korea wasn't a declared war and it's not over. It's just an armistice.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, motherfucker. When you shoot at me and my men with intent to kill us, that's a goddamn war. I don't give a fuck how you look at it.
Yeah, yeah. No, okay? I get you. There's always something going on. That's the thing a lot of people don't realize. Like, I look at it now and it's like people don't even realize how many people we have in like Africa. You know what I'm saying? There's shit going on over there. We got people in Syria. Like, people didn't know for the longest time that we had people in Syria. I mean, there's stuff going on all over these little fires that detachments are sent out to take care of,
Well, you got proxy wars being fought by state-sponsored terrorism, like from Iran. Okay, I'll use them specifically because I know about it. And you got the Hezbollah, and they're the ones that are collecting the monies, okay, and training these guys, getting them the weapons, and let them become the insurgents and supporting them all all around the world, wherever there's Americans, American lives, property, and interests. So you never know, when they're going to blow up a synagogue, or they're going to attack a church, a soft target, or whether they're going to hit a military base. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
So are you going to call that a war or not? I'm telling you, you got to be ready for it all the time, whether it's a declared one or not. I came back from in '79, and we were trying to tell the news back then, because there's no .com, there's no internet, none of this, no cell phones, that shit didn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're trying to tell them, I said, the State Department was caught with their pants down. And I said, you have no idea, okay, what you're dealing with over there. And all my different kinds of classified or declassified debriefings, we told them, and they shook their head, they took the notes, videoed it, and I said, you motherfuckers can't even find Iran or Iran or Iraq on the map. Okay, you don't even know who the players are. Maybe some of your intelligence people do, but you know what? For the most part, you don't even have maps of some of this place out here. You had to reconfigure your satellites to draw the maps out there. You ever see a map of Iran? It looks brown, looks like nothing. And then when the wind blows, and it changes the geography all the time. You're talking about ancient Persia, right? And Iran, geographically, is 2.5 times the size of Texas. So wrap your head around that one.
I didn't know that.
2.5 times the size of Texas.
That's a lot bigger than I thought it was.
It's a lot bigger, okay? And then you're looking at, this is the historical. The Iranians are not Arabs. They're Muslims. They're not Arabs. They're Persians.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They're damn proud of that. And unlike their neighbor next door that they can't stand, Iraq at the time, with that Saddam Hussein over there playing the game. Well, you got to remember, we're still talking about the Iron Curtain, that people don't even know what the fuck that is. They need to Google that one too. When I went in, it was still NATO versus Warsaw, Warsaw Pact. All right. They had Berlin was still a divided city, Checkpoint Charlie. Yep. This was not friendly Russians we're talking with today. This was the Soviet Union. And, you got countries like East and West Germany that now they can't remember that back then. And all the countries are now, Romania, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, et cetera, Yugoslavia, all of them. That was a different world back then. So if there wasn't any shooting going on, thank God, because it wouldn't take much to start that shit up again in the middle of Europe. This all came under the influences of how important oil was and the locations of all the oil between Iraq and Iran. Now, Iran, being run by the Shah, was very pro-American, pro-West. It's probably the only one over there that was at the time. Iraq and the rest of them were arming themselves on the Soviet side. Okay, so when you're talking about strategic arms limitations, the SALT I, SALT II agreements, we're trying to wind down the nukes so that somebody doesn't get blindsided with a nuclear attack or anything. And they with the advent of terrorism coming around, they said, hey, we learned guerrilla warfare over in Vietnam, okay? And then we started learning what it was like and watching the Israelis have to deal with, their terrorism. And they go, it's not going to be, much farther away. Then they start to realize we can do this kind of shit to anybody, anywhere, any soft target that they're not ready.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that, you look at it and you say, damn, man, why didn't we see this coming? And it the whole thing, when we basically lost Iran to a theocracy with the Ayatollah Khomeini, we told them when we came back here, guys, you have no idea what you're dealing with over there, the fanaticism of it, and how dedicated these people are. And overnight, literally overnight, they changed their whole entire country. And we saw the guts ripped out of that country. And you're talking about a civil war. You're talking about a civil war between brothers and fellow Muslims, one being Shiite, one being Sunni. It's kind of like saying my Jesus is better than your Jesus, Catholic. That's where it is. And shortly after 1979, you had Iraq assuming that speculating that is that they could take over Iran because it was basically a bunch of tribes that all got together to oust the Shah. And Khomeini was having a hard time, getting them all back together again. So Saddam Hussein, attacked that country. And within about 60 days, the Iraqi army, which had all their Russian stuff, and the Iranians They had, pretty much American tanks and planes and things like that, F-14s, whatever. They had decimated each other in a matter of weeks, and they went back to trench warfare like World War I, digging trenches in the middle of the damn sand and then shooting at each other back and forth. The world was appalled.
Crazy.
It was crazy. And what I draw this analogy to is that how fanatically they would take kids anywhere from the age of 8 to about 15. The Iranians would take the Iranians at that time after the Shah, and they were called a basij, and they would run them across open minefields, blow them up, clearing the minefields so that the hardened troops could get through and get at the Iraqis.
No way. That's so crazy.
Google it. It's out there. And, people didn't realize how barbaric it really was.
Yeah.
And so when you were talking about, seeing the dead people and whatnot, when I landed in Iran, it was, like I said in my book, I got the bad part of it was I got the misinformation. I travel and then I show up in a suit and a tie and, my briefcase that you normally do when you get transferred a Marine security guard to another embassy. That's the dress travel protocol. No, they took my jacket off, gave me a flak jacket and a helmet, put me in a 113 and then 113 armored personnel, APC, armored personnel carrier, and drove me from the airport to the embassy. And I got to look out the bulletproof windows and say, God, the city was in flames. There was cars burning. People were shooting at each other. I mean, if you take pictures of or followed it back when you could, what was going on day by day in downtown Beirut, Lebanon, that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, Beirut is now like a destroyed country, and we look at it as this like crazy third world country, but before it was a beautiful like vacation spot for a lot of Europeans and everything else.
They call it the French Mediterranean Riviera. It was beautiful.
Before I want to talk, I do want to talk more about the Iranian stuff, but a question I have for guys in your era, because you came up during the draft. You were talking about the draft. Did you know guys that were drafted? And what was kind of the feeling amongst people when like these draft notices would come out? Like, hey man, you got to join. Like, it's your call, because it's hard today to think of that. Like, oh man, I'm watching TV waiting to see if my number pops up. And now I got to go, can you kind of explain how the sentiment behind the draft was and what it was like for people that were drafted? I'm sure you met draftees through your time.
Absolutely. I had a couple of friends that were a little bit older than me at the time. So I was just barely turning 17 and still in high school at the Valley Forge Military Academy when that was going on. So other guys that were at home that I grew up with in New Jersey, they were a year or two older than me. They had to register. And then when the news came out, they go, God damn, I got my, got my numbers called. He says, I said they had a choice of either joining right away before they got processed, or once their notice they were served, they would be drafted into whatever service that they needed at the time. You didn't get a choice. Most of them got drafted, went into the Army where it was going on. But I think it peaked about the 73, 74. That's when it peaked, where they still had the draft going, but they weren't. When you got drafted, they were dragging most of the vets home, especially the Army vets. They were breaking them down because they knew they were getting ready to find some way to shorten the war. But the nerves, everything you talk about, is that no one was. There's no internet. There's no instant Palm Pilot information that we got today.
Yeah.
So it was just rumors. And when people were making phone calls, they go, hey, I'm going down to the recruiter's office tomorrow, and I'm going to ask and see, what my options are, et cetera. And being in a military academy, that more or less protected me because I was still, in high school and grade school. So I tell a guy, one of them, his name was Roy Muth, another Mike Regan, and he said, man, we're going to go down. What do you think we should do? I said, well, what do you want to do? I said, you can't fly. I mean, so if you have some skill set that they can use, and it depends all upon how well you do with, testing and physical wise, if there's nothing wrong with you, vision, et cetera, et cetera. I said, but they were worried. They really were. They didn't want to go over there, and they didn't get answers to anything they see. Because at the time, I think we only had NBC, ABC, and three stations.
CBS. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. For the most part. So, people were searching for answers of where their options could be, and they didn't want to get down to sometimes to the recruiters because afraid they were going to get talked in or scooped up at times. My brother-in-laws were really good at it because they'd been in the game and out of it, so they were able to be tapped for some advice. And some advice is, look, they're winding it down. I said they're no longer putting that much time and money and resources and ammunition and things over there as they're pulling out. So they said, okay, look, we're still going to go with the draft, but I remember them saying that we don't have to report until a certain date. So when their date came to report, I think Roy went over to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and he got in there. I remember a conversation where once he got there, I don't know if it was for basic training or indoctrination or inducted, but they were telling him that they were not going over to Vietnam in a combat situation, regardless of what their MOS or specialty was. They're winding it down. So, to answer your question, there was some angst about it at first, but once you got it, but you didn't really worry about it until your number come up.
Yeah.
From my friends and my contacts. So once it was, we didn't learn about it. Most of them didn't worry about it until 73, 74. And again, they're winding down. So once they got some good scoop and the scuttlebutt was, tossed away and they could deal with facts and options, it kind of relieved them a bit.
Now we know that there is no longer a draft, but high school men have to sign up for the selective service, which is essentially a list of people that would be drafted if needed.
Right.
What are your thoughts on how they are wanting to push women into that?
Well, I was at first against the women wanting to go into combat, operations years ago. I think it was 78, 79 when they started that. Only because it's not their qualifications or that they couldn't be trained that way. It's going to you were changing the whole way the average American soldier, Marine, sailor, airman, dealt with their sisters, their moms, their wives, the way they looked at, America and American women. Nobody wanted to see them over there, having their arms and legs blown off or, being abused if they were, captured, things like that. Although that's part of war. I mean, is it absolutely necessary from a political point of view to do that? We didn't have enough men to continue to do it. But, the provocations at the time and the PR, the political, attitudes, they won their way and, Congress allowed them to be in there. So with the women coming in, you just said, since I wasn't in an active combat, situation, my first 4 years was Beaufort and a couple cruises and some deployments, but never in any hot spot, not as an air traffic controller. I sit in the tower of the radar room with a cup of coffee and a headset. That was my game, But, once I get tired of that and, re-enlistment was up, the world's just starting to see what terrorism was like. And, viewing it through, us helping the Israelis, and you've seen it all the time. And they go, man, you better start paying attention to this over here, because they could be hit anytime, anywhere. You don't have to have a decided, identified enemy in a uniform. Mm-hmm. Okay, you started back in the late 50s with the VC, the Viet Cong, and then eventually they, with China and communist China, Chi-Coms, and Russia supporting them and training them, they become the NVA, a uniformed, organized, well-equipped, trained army. So, once we got the women in there, I was glad to see that even though we had them, I graduated in 78 from Marine Security Guard Battalion School, MSG, mm-hmm. Embassy Guard. And I think it was that was the last class in Henderson Hall, then if I remember correctly. And that was headquarters Marine Corps in Henderson Hall in Washington, D.C. And then they transferred it over to Quantico, the MSG battalion, the schools of Quantico. And that's when they started female WMs, women Marines, into embassy, guard school. And so really I wasn't around the females much wherever I went because I didn't get to go to too many grunt bases.
Yeah.
But, I ran into them. I've never seen one or met one that was in a female MSG, nor have I ever, for the most
I don't
part.
think I have either.
No, not at that time.
There are quite
And
a
since
few
then,
now. There are quite a few infantry women. There are quite a few in the artillery world. I mean, there's a lot in combat arms now. You know, obviously not as many as men, but there enough compared to 10 years ago. Even when I was in, there were no women in combat arms, and now you have women squad leaders, you have women fire team leaders in the infantry, and stuff like that. Yeah.
women SEALs, women recon.
Well, I don't think any women have gone through SEAL or past SEAL training yet. There is one female that finished recon training that I know of. She is a sniper in recon, or if she's still in, I'm not sure if she is or not. But yeah, they're making their way into different fields. And I think a lot of other people agree with this sentiment is that, hey man, if you can carry your weight, then that's cool. But the problem that a lot of people have is if we're going to lower standards to allow women to be part of these fields, and people won't want to hear this, but the problem, a big difference that we have between men and women in the Marine Corps, and the reason that one of the reasons that women constantly get not disrespected, but maybe not the respect that they deserve, is that they have different standards than the men do. And that's just true. You know what I'm saying? So if I want to go get promoted to corporal, or I want to go get promoted to sergeant, then I need to do the best I can on my physical fitness test. Well, me as a male, to get a perfect score on my physical fitness test, I have to run 3 miles in 18 minutes. I have to do 22 pull-ups, and I have to do 100 crunches. This was from when I was in. I think it's changed some now. But that was the standard. For women, they had to run a 3 mile in like 23 or 24 minutes. They didn't even have to do pull-ups if they didn't want to. They could do 3 pull-ups and get a perfect score, or do what we call a flex arm hang, where they just jump up on the bar and see how long they can hang there. And then less crunches. So let's say I run 19-minute 3 mile, I do 18 pull-ups, and I do 100 crunches. Well, this woman that's a Marine can run 22-minute 3 miles, do 5 pull-ups and 100 crunches, and she gets a better score than me, and now she can get promoted ahead of me. And in my own opinion, until the physical fitness standards are even across the board, and every standard, there's no different standard for different people, then they're always going to get crap about being in the military and about how they have it easier and stuff, because it's true. And people will not like me saying that, but it's true. When you have an easier physical, and I know women and men are different, but you can't say men and women are different, but they're also, I don't know. To me, that right there is a catalyst for there always being animosity in the military, is the physical fitness standards are different between men and women, and it causes women to get promoted faster than men. That when you're out on a run, let's say we're on a company run, this chick runs slower than me, but scores higher, and we're out on a company run, and you see her fall out of the run. You know what I'm saying? But somehow her physical fitness test score is higher, and then she gets promoted faster. And I know this too, and people will counter with, well, now in combat arms MOSs, they have a job-specific physical fitness test that they have to pass. That's fine, and that's cool, and I think they should do that. You know, like for artillerymen, they have to lift like a 100-pound weight a certain amount of times to simulate lifting up rounds, because the rounds weigh 100 pounds. However, until the actual physical fitness standards that help you get promoted are changed, women are still going to get crap because they're getting an easier shot at getting promoted to corporal and sergeant and above than the men are. And it's just not fair. And combat, we don't care about fair. So like you should be able to do everything that the men are doing. But I will say there are women that are in the military that do great at their job. And again, I think anyone that comes and pulls their weight and does everything that the men do and can keep up and do everything like that, then, that's awesome. But I was a mechanic for my first 3 years, and at MLG, so I had females in my platoon sometimes. And I saw how that was an issue, though. Dudes are always trying to have sex with them. If they're good looking at all, they get cush jobs. They have them come work in the office as a clerk and stuff. It's like, it's a weird game, but I don't know. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Go ahead.
No, it absolutely is. And when it comes to not just the physical standards, but look at the, I'll say, uh, the mental standards of it. I mean, when you put a woman behind a rifle and you get the basics in line, you know, you got sight alignment, sight pictures, you squeeze that trigger. That trigger doesn't know any gender, any sex, anything at all.
For sure.
You line that up, taking all the considerations, you know, as a not just a sniper, because the sniping part is easy. It's being, if you've ever been to sniper school, it's the waiting and trying to get up to where your target's going to be. But if you put all the mechanisms together and you're online with that scope, it's going to work, male or female. Same thing's going to be, in my opinion. I can speak from that, but here I'll speak from an opinion that I don't have background. Put them in a jet, put them in a Navy jet. Any kind, you know, combat. If they can physically take the, you know, the force of the G-force on them, if they can think under that kind of stress, then when they pull that trigger, they move that throttle, whatever. That bird doesn't know anything. Okay, your religion, your race, your creed, your color, it doesn't matter. It just knows it's going to respond to what your mental capacity is to make that decision. So fine, you know, if you want to make it so that the job, like you said, job specifics for it, the mental capacity of it, along with the physical, I'm all for it. But that's for each and every job. You know, do you think every woman could, you know, fly the space shuttle? So what are you supposed to do?
Just like every man can. You know,
right.
We have standards for a reason.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We wouldn't lessen the standards and be like, well, this dude ran his 3 miles in 23 minutes, so we'll go ahead and give him a perfect score. Like, that would never happen. But we do that for women for whatever reason. And again, I don't want to keep beating on it, but that right there is why I think that they're going to continue to get looked down upon until the standard is the standard. It's not different for anybody, no matter what your sex is, no matter what your race is, no matter what, you know, anything like that. Like, no difference in standards. You come in, you meet the standard, or you don't, you know, and there's a lot of men that don't meet the standard, and there's a lot of women that don't meet the standard. So it's just the name of the game, you know.
You're dead on, spot on, accurate with that. And, you know, again, we won't beat it to death, but you just take it one more step in a different direction. Not just the military and the jobs they have. How about law enforcement officers and street cops and deputies? Okay, I mean, there's no reason why, in theory or in principle, why a woman couldn't be when they put them out there on the street. Okay, but now you have to counter it of saying, is she big enough? Is she tough enough to take somebody on? She's going to take somebody on her grounds. Okay, man to man, unless she's got special tactics in a close quarter battle or a black belt, or she's an MMA trainer. Other than that, you know, you got something, you know, 5'6", 5'7". She's in decent shape. She's 25 years old, but she's going to take on some, you know, drunken maniac that says, no, I ain't going to jail today, honey. So now they get in an altercation. If she loses that fight, gets sucker punched, or she gets behind in it, now she has to go to a more lethal force, you know? Or at least if it doesn't have to be lethal, the next one, you know, and that's where we come out with the pepper spray, and then, you know, the force continuum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now, you know, why, you know, that's
I remember
look how things change along the way.
There's so many videos that have come out of like women cops getting like beat down. It's like, fuck, man, that's so crazy. Like, you feel bad for them. You're like, man, they had no chance in that. There was one, I think there was like a dude who got out of a minivan and just beat the crap out of a woman, police officer, and like left her for dead. And I was like, man, she had no chance there. Like, it's just, it's rough out there. But anyways, back to you, man. You mentioned Chesty Puller. You said that was in your book. I haven't had a chance to look at your book. I actually didn't even know you had a book until I was doing the research about you, and I saw it. I was like, oh, there's a book. So what's the title of your book? There we go. A Marine Endures Hell.
A Marine Endures Hell. The first Marine hostage at the embassy in Tehran in 1979.
Nice. What did you meet Chesty Puller before that incident or after?
No. We broke in. It was in the book. It was another Marine. It was a gunny. Long story short, that had trained with Carlos Hathcock. And when oh my God, and I've met him. Okay, when I worked for the Department of Energy in a nuclear SWAT, he came in and overlooked how the SWAT training was going for our snipers. And it was amazing. It's just amazing to meet that man before he passed away. But it was the gunnery sergeant that was assigned to me as more or less like a valet when I first got out of the country to Frankfurt, Germany. Now I know people aren't going to understand that until they read the book or get the timeline. But when I was evacuated, kicked out, deported from Iran to Germany, had my wounds and whatnot looked at. It was a gunnery sergeant that had actually served. He was a E2, a corporal, and served as I guess a spotter or a scout sniper sign with Latrang.
That's awesome.
With the damn man,
White
you just
feather?
bring back. Yeah, you just bring back good memories. So, and then he told me, we talked about the conversation in the book. I said, you absolutely worked with him? Yep, on combat patrols. It's like 68, 69. I said, holy cow. Because he had asked me, I said, what brought the conversation up is he says, you don't realize what's been happening for the last week. You've been kidnapped, you've been, beat, tortured, you've been underground. We couldn't find where you were. Do you have any idea what's happening right now? And the plane that you're going to get on to take you to the United States, you have any clue? I said, no, none. And he gave me a little Reader's Digest version of what's going on. I said, are you kidding me? No way. I said, wait, man. He said, so when do you see what's going on? You're going to get a bigger and a more in-depth briefing on board the bird. And I went, wow. That's where I'd asked him. I said, he had told me that, basically, I was bitching that, the uniforms and stuff they were putting on me didn't fit me, completely. He said, you should just shut your fucking mouth, and Marine. They said, suck it up. He said, you're lucky, you got a chest to put a medal on for the most part. And I said, what are you talking about? And that's when we got into the story. And I said, oh my God. So I asked him, he's been around, and that's how we got in a conversation. And I said, so what? He was basically assigned to the embassy there. I don't know if he was MSG or not, but the way he wore his uniform, you could tell he was about as fit and as sharp as a drill instructor. Same thing MSGs are. I mean, it takes just immaculate. So I'd ask him, I said, how long you moved to MSG? And we got on the subject. And I said, he says, I said, what's your MOS? What was your MOS before, MSG? I said, what was my MOS or what was my job? There's two different things. And when he told me what his job was and related to Carlos Hathcock, I went, what? I said, he's historical. And just like I said, it's just like Chesty Puller or a few more. And then you mentioned that together, and that's when I jumped in. I go, I have to add this into my book. Now that's 79, and then I think it was 1980, 86, 87, when I was working for the Department of Energy, Nuclear SWAT. And he started their own academy called the CTA, Central Training Academy, out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And after the first few classes, they started, an advanced sniper school. And that's where Carlos came out to one of the graduations, and it was a big thing.
That's awesome. I didn't know how much of a legend he was. I didn't know if it happened after his book came out or if it was something that people knew him beforehand. So it's interesting to know that people knew about him before he even had a book. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've heard. He wasn't as popular. But we had heard his name before when we were at the shooting range at PMI, at Edson Range out there. They did the gunnies and the master sergeants, the tops would make reference to him, and then you'd have to say, well, there was again no internet. You're not going to go, Google it. You just say, oh, who is he? And you ask around, and you get the background of some of the war stories or what was going on, but not until. I believe you're right. The book comes out and then a movie or whatever, and they can actually talk about how many confirmed kills, some of his missions, because he didn't always work for the Marine Corps. He did some side work for other agencies.
3-letter agencies. Yeah, he and it's crazy because he wasn't even the deadliest sniper there. Like Chuck Mahoney was for the Marine Corps, had more kills than Carlos Hathcock did, but he was very much, from what I understand, reading his biography and stuff, Chuck's, is that when he got out of the Marine Corps, he kind of just let it all go and never talked about it until way later in life. I guess he had a whole nother career, and all the people he worked with, no one even knew he was in the Marines. So, it's a tale of two different guys, I guess. It's kind of interesting.
Look at me. It took me 45 years ago is when Iran, do the math, 79.
Yeah,
it's taken
man.
this long to get through the facts, the figures, what is able to be written about, and really with my post-traumatic stress and the nightmares, I had all these decades of notes and memories like that just put away, and I had to actually be talked into, put it down as a book, let people know what happened, not so much to make money or anything like that. He said, for no other motivation, he said, take some of the money that you make, some of the royalties, put it back to DAV and help the ones that are going through what we're seeing coming over out of this into the sandbox. Mm-hmm. I mean, look how many we had to come up with punji sticks, ideas for punji sticks in Vietnam. That was something new to us. Now we're over there in the sandbox, IEDs. Mm-hmm. We have to come up with these words because they're things we have to learn the hard way. And when you see a veteran sitting there with no arm, no leg, and you wonder, God dang it, what can I ever do at now, post Marine Corps, to help out. So that was more of a motivation too, after all these years of this thing eating at you, and not just eating at you at times, but formatting your life and your concepts and your values and things like that in life. And it affects you, man. It really does. So when they want to come back and don't want to talk about it at certain times, I can totally understand that. Yeah. But at times do want to talk about it, please give them the time, sit down, have a drink with them, sit down and break bread, pray with them, whatever it takes, because it's as you change. I mean, this happened to me. I was 22 years old. So, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you change normally on this planet if you didn't go through stuff like that. So once that sets your base, that will go with you every decade as the news comes out. I mean, again, can't find, we didn't know what Hezbollah, Hamas, and all the other Syria's going on, and some of the players. As those players change, you say, hey, how do you think, when you walk back now, 9/11, and then you went over there and say, yeah, we're going after Osama bin Laden. And then from there, we get into Iraq. And then after Iraq, we get into Afghanistan. I mean, it propels itself.
Yeah, it's a big mess, man. Let's talk about your time then. Let's talk about your MSG duty. So for those that don't know, MSG is Marine Security Guard. Every embassy around the world is guarded by Marines. They come from all different backgrounds. They apply to go to MSG school. They go through the course, get trained on how to do all the stuff that is required of them, and then they get sent out to different locations. I think normally MSG guards go to 3 different locations during their tour, usually a year each, from what I've understood. And I mean, I've always been told by people that have done that job that it's one of the best jobs in the military. I've never talked to someone that did the job and would not recommend it to someone else. They loved it. Like everyone that did it loved it. They're like, you get to go to these different countries. Sometimes they're shitholes, but you get these different experiences and meet people that you would never get to do on a normal opportunity. Can you explain to us, can you tell us about MSG, what your training was, what you guys were trained to do? And then I understand before you went to Iran, you were in Cypress.
That's correct. Now, the MSG battalion is that it's not automatic that you get there. You have to qualify to get in there. Yeah. And usually part of the qualifications is you just have to remember the pros and cons, of your fitness reports.
Yep.
Okay, how you got your numbers. Okay, those have to be outstanding to even apply for the position. Okay, it's the MSG, believe it or not, or the drill field. So when my first 4 years were up in 78, I was looking at either getting out or staying in the Marine Corps. I had gotten E3, E4, and E2, E3, and E4 meritoriously. And then to re-enlist, I said that I would get sergeant. I'd be promoted to sergeant for another 4 years. But you had to commit another 4, actually 6, including another 2 reserve if you get out. So you have to be nominated, per se, by your command to go out that way. You got your monitor up there in Washington, D.C. that has to look that way and say, well, you're not in a critical MOS at that moment, so you're good. If you're in a critical MOS, they're not even going to let you apply. Mm-hmm. So you got to get a luck of the draw on the ratio of where you're coming from to where you're going. The needs of the Marine Corps. Imagine that. And so you apply. You'll go through psychological testing, physical testing, medical testing, et cetera, et cetera. You have to be qualifications. You have to be single. Okay. You have to have at least 36 months left on active duty on your enlistment. That's because basically at the time in 1978, back in the 70s anyway, MSG Battalion, Marine Security Guard Battalion, Henderson Hall, Headquarters, Marine Corps, you would need 36 months left, because normally when you graduate, going on the assumption you graduate, is that you will go, your tour of duty on the embassies and consulates, whatever, would be 18 months at a hardship post, and then 18 months at a luxury post. So the MSG Battalion was broken up in, I think it was 5 companies. Company A was Europe, Company B was the Middle East, Company C was Asia, D was South America, E was Vietnam, but they disbanded that, and I think F Company was up in Canada, North America, and things like that. So if it was up, you're run by the State Department. You work for them. They have absolute operational control over you. The Marine Corps does nothing but take care of your admin, your pay and your service record book, et cetera, et cetera. So you're if you graduate from the academy, as it was basically an academy, where I'll get into the training in a minute. You would depending on where you graduate, your numeric standing in the class, you would be able to pick your post. And for me, you go to these different posts, and we didn't have we didn't have the click down windows that you have today to look and see what the embassies were like or anything. They had books at the Marine House and the and the post, where they sent pictures of what it was like in everyday life there, and what the duty was in each and every spot. So you had to pick your hardship post. Now, a hardship post would be something that was in a third world toilet country, like one was, Dhaka, Bangladesh. And the only reason the State Department would call that a hardship post, because the Marine Corps would say they're all luxury posts to the Marines, would be because of the amount of disease and the lack of good qualified medical care that was there for the most part. And I mean, the weather that was there, it was just terrible. At the time, there wasn't, any specific or generic threat of terrorism or anything like that. You could go to like Brazzaville, the Congo, when it was there. It was out there. They had to put. It's funny. One guy that was sent out there. He came almost at the bottom of the class, and he was a lot of fun to be with and drink and party with. But he came at the bottom of the class. He got sent to the Brazzaville, the Congo. He said he got there, and the Marine House was a dirt floor. I mean, it was a hard dirt floor.
Oh wow.
There was people that had been. They assumed that there was people that had been breaking into the Marine House there and stealing items. But really, when they put up video to try to catch these folks, they found that they were actually wild monkeys coming in from the jungle and stealing their lives and getting through in the windows. So they had to put wire cages around the Marine House. Now it looked like you were living in a brig.
That's hilarious.
In the jail. Oh, it was. So it was things like that would make you have to go your first 18 months at a hardship post. And then, depending what company you were in, you could put your paperwork in to go. If I was in Europe, if I wanted to go to Europe, and I was in Nicosia, okay, and I wanted to go Cypress, and I wanted to go from this company, I put my paperwork in. You wanted to go to Stockholm, Sweden, everybody wanted to get a blonde girlfriend, take her home, or Dublin, Ireland, Paris. They were what they call the big contingents. I mean, in Paris, I think they had almost 30 MSGs that were there, and it was a lot better. So depending about where you wanted to go, and if your background, your family was South America, you wanted to go see the history of South America, you'd put in for that. So you needed the 18 months to do a successful tour in a hardship post. What made my post, Nicosia, a hardship post, was that there was a green line between the Turks and the Greeks. Now, dig this.
What do you mean by a green line?
Yeah, I'm just going to explain that. What happens is a UN line. It's a green line. It's not black. It's not white. It's green for peace. Right. Anyway, so 1973, 74, when I was still in military academy, there was a political problem between the Turks and the Greeks in the little island of Cypress. Yep. And that's all the way over in the southeast corner of the Med. And it's just below Turkey. Anyway, long story short, there was the Turks had used their military to actually invade Cyprus. and take over half of it. If you Google that, you'll figure it out. And they split the island in half. Now you're talking about they did it when right after the United States had given them a whole bunch of new armament, planes, and because they were NATO. So was Greece, by the way. How about that? So the Greeks wanted to start a bunch of shit over that, but the Turks took that island in a week. Took half the island, then stopped. That's where the UN came in and go, okay, guys, knock it off. It's like two brothers going at it. But Turks and Greeks have been at each other from day one.
Yeah.
So there's no love lost between those guys. So because there was a green line, which is the contingents, the UN came in and all the checkpoints, all the roads between the two, like North and South Korea, similar. There's an armistice, and they said, okay, this side of your island is yours, and this side of the island's, Greek.
That's crazy.
So. Yeah. So you would have, if you're driving from one side, the Greek side, you'd have to go through a checkpoint, a Greek checkpoint. Then you'd have to go through a UN checkpoint. Then you'd go through a Turk, on the other side. And it all might be a mile long. So just because you have contingents like the CanCon, Canadian contingent, it would do this location. The DanCon, Danish were here. Swedish, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because the Brits have two bases there. They had Akrotiri Sovereign Air Base and Episcopi. The one was a naval base, and the other, I think, was a sovereign air base. Anyway, they kept that there for, since World War II for the most part. So just because you had the troops at each other, that green line going there, everything else on the island was fine. And we were unique because no Greek could go over to the Turkish side, no Turk could go over to the Greek side, but we could, especially because we had a black passport and we worked at the embassy, we could badge our way through on either side, But you got to be careful because if they think that you're, bringing stuff over to one side that's not allowed on the other, or passing notes, things back and forth, you get your tit in the ringer real quick over that one.
Yeah, get wrapped up for like espionage or something like that.
Bingo.
Yeah, my
Bingo.
grandfather actually served on Checkpoint Charlie, and when you were talking about earlier that East Germany, West Germany kind of deal, sounds very similar to that.
Very much.
Man, that's a crazy time. Turkey is not the greatest NATO ally. Sometimes I question why we keep them around. I know during the Global War on Terror they were pretty vital because they allowed us to use their airspace to fly over. I think we had a base there too, an air base for drones. I can't remember, but I know their big contribution was that they allowed us to use their airspace to access like I think northern Iraq. Yeah, but I don't know. So is it? I mean, you're in an area that is just ripe with ancient civilization relics and stuff like that. What was that like?
That was amazing, and it reminded me to go back to some of the training at the MSG, what we went through and whatnot. But that's when you're dead right. That's the cradle of civilization. Mesopotamia, ancient Babylon. You're looking at the Tigris-Euphrates River. I mean, just pick up your Christian Bible and read some of the areas, both Old and New Testament, of what it was like. You got Xerxes, Darius, Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus. All these great Persian kings that were back and forth. One Persian, the Medes and the Persians come in, the Babylonians, and who else was there? Alexander the Greek, great, walked through that place, and the battles and everything that were. And then you got places over there from World War I, World War II. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not just talking about wars, but you're talking about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, going all the way back to hieroglyphics, and when they first started writing on tablets. It was all right there. I mean, it's a biblical proportions. And when it's Turkey's part of it is that you have ancient Turkey was in World War I was the Ottoman Empire. And still to this day can't get that shit right. And they said, oh no, this is Palestine. I said, well, not my opinion, but can you show me where the borders of Palestine are or were? No. Can you show me what government they had? No. Can you show me what flag or what money, what currency? No. They were a territory of the Ottoman Empire, okay? And once the Ottoman Empire took sides on Germany in World War I, they lost that area.
A lot of people don't realize that. That's something that a lot of people don't even know, is that the Ottoman Empire ruled that whole area until World War One, and then once we beat the Axis of Evil or whatever you want to call them, that's when Saudi Arabia and all those places got their countries back basically, and were able to reestablish themselves.
They didn't really get them back. It was the UN and the victors over there, the French and the British, that drew the lines in the sand. Yeah. This will be Iraq, this will be Syria, and take a look at the way some of those borders are written out there. There's nothing, none of them look square or anything that was, tangible from our point of view. We weren't over there for the most part. The Americans probably had very little say-so in that, except, running it through the Balfour Declaration and where that went. Mm-hmm. So, what's left of Turkey, Turkey's always been, I wouldn't even, a unique area in the sense that they are Muslim, 90% of them at least, Muslims. But once what was left of Turkey now, they always kind of you see a part of it over in Constantinople, Istanbul, is in Europe, okay? The other part of it is in the Middle East. So they've always wanted to be, they call him, the nickname they joked over there we learned about, is the poor man of Europe. Mm. Is that always, he's in the back of the bus. Nobody wants to have, really like them or trust them. They don't have oil. They don't have gold. They don't have anything but Turks and pots and pans and a lot of opium. Okay, well, that was another back door. But that being it said, when you started squaring off now with the Soviets, and we now got rid of the Nazis, and now we're facing the communists, the red communists. Okay, they came in and they said they hold the area that is strategically important. The Bosporus or the straits that are there, go right into the Black Sea, and that's the Russian fleet. You bottle them up right there, they're going to have to attack a NATO country. And then, but next to them, the people they can't stand are the Greeks. So you're trying to keep the two of them shaking hands at the same time, but at the same time, you're trying to keep those same hands from going at each other all the time. Yeah. So that's what you get with when you're talking about Turkey. And then, of course, you got little pockets like the Kurds that, for the most part, don't like the Turks. Turks don't like them. Go back to 1915 when the Turks massacred several million Armenians who were predominantly Christian. Okay, so you got a lot of players over there, to a point you need a scorecard to figure it out. And you can't always play one against the other. But we've always needed Turkey, tongue in cheek, to watch Russia and keep Russia bottled up. Okay. Yeah. Then once Russia's the Iron Curtain went down, that now they started redrawing the boundaries of Bulgaria, Yugoslavia. There was another shithole that after Tito, how they chopped that up, which led directly with Clinton's and the Serbians and everybody else having to deal with that. So those countries are now, and then you had Czechoslovakia. Now they're two separate countries. So as they pair off, how do you become a Croatian and a Serb and a Muslim? And I know these people just walked in and went right down the street on the map and cut them up. So you're going to have these problems when you just walk in and say, you can't be there, and here's your new border, but my cousins live over there, but you can't go over there. I mean, there's going to be animosity no matter which way you look at it. And that's the State Department's job and a policy for every administration that comes in here. And when you put your bases out there, now look at, you got Ankara, which is where the embassy was, and then we got the in Turkey, and then you have Constantinople or Istanbul, whatever one you want to call that. That's where the consulate was there, and you have nuke bases in there. Now what are you going to say? You got nukes that are nuclear bombers at Insular Air Force Base, boom, nukes. Yeah. And for the longest time, that was supposed to be classified information till they put it out, on the news, and they put it out with people coming back and movies, and books. So now, not like the Russians didn't know that they were there. They know. Everybody's alphabet agency knows what's going on for the most part. When you can't hide nuclear bombers, where are you going to hide a B-52 or a whole squadron of them? Come on.
Yeah, and that was a huge time for espionage as well.
Time.
Yeah, that would have been a cool time to be like in the CIA working against the KGB and stuff. Like that's like classic spy stuff that you hear about.
That's the stuff that we learned in embassy school. Is we were the police. We are the cops, the uniformed cops that provide the security and defend the embassies. Now, we have, we got 14 weeks. Well, it was 12 when I was there, and then they extended it, 14 weeks. Besides just a lot of the, shall we say, prim and proper parade ground stuff, where you see they had the best uniforms, tailored fit. You had to be in shape. You couldn't have too much body fat. I mean, things. When it comes to the physical. Yeah. Plus, you realize that in different areas, you'd see them in Paris and Rome, the nice, dress blues, Alphas and Bravos and Charlies, really nice. But then you get, same kind of embassy over there in Beirut, where they're in flak jackets and camouflage, so that's it. And we control the bodyguarding and the safety and security of the Americans that are there. And anybody that doesn't realize it, every embassy anywhere in the world or consulate is a nest of people that work in intelligence. No, they're not spies per se, but I've seen at embassy you have CIA, DIA, Defense Intelligence Agencies, NRO, National Reconnaissance guys. They work on the satellites. Okay, FBI, Secret Service, DSS, that is Department of State Security. There was alphabet agencies. I couldn't even tell you what the hell they were. Okay, there's times that we walk in and we at our post, and we at these times, remember, this is 1978, 79. Half of your technology that you have today did not exist or wasn't applicably applied out there. Mm-hmm. And there's times that I've actually seen people come in, sign in their visitors, their visitor logs, whatever, call them down. And I know for a fact that the last time I saw this person, he was not the same person on the ID that's here.
I was getting ready to ask. I was going to say, back then, I bet it was super easy to make fake IDs. Now you can't do it as much.
No. Now you put a chip in your hand, so you got to, that information's out there, but I have never seen that, and I've been only told that, so I don't know exactly how it works. But
that's interesting. I've never heard that. So.
Oh yeah, they chip them. They chip them now, just like a dog. Hey, you got a dog or a thoroughbred racehorse? It's worth $500,000. Jesus, how about this? I mean, they told us that at some places, if it was a station chief, the CIA station chief, they chip him or her. So if they get captured or taken, they can find out where they're at.
That's not surprising, to be honest. I mean, I get it. It sucks. That's a weird thing to think about, especially if you're the one that's getting the chip embedded into you.
Yeah.
But I also understand when you see stuff like what happened in like Benghazi and stuff like that, where, these attacks do happen. There was an embassy earlier this year that got evacuated. I think it was in, I want to say it was in Africa, but I could be wrong about that. There was, this isn't an uncommon thing. It does happen where either strife against the Americans in the country gets too high, or there's like a civil war, some kind of civil unrest, and the Americans are just kind of caught in the middle of it, and like the danger is definitely there, especially in some of these less stable countries. Now, when you went from Cypress and you got orders to Iran, what were you thinking?
Well, I thought a couple of things, but they had put out a request that I'll just back up for a second. This folds in, is that when they decide to evacuate a country, usually the Americans that are there, in this case Iran, it was getting dangerous. They were getting shot up, beat up, locked up, and very seldom, especially in the sandbox over there, in any revolution of any type, you never have just one faction against the government. You will have several tribes or factions that come together, especially if it's going against the pro-West, okay, pro-American. Because the Soviets are going to get in there. Now Hezbollah, you got everybody and his brother now wants to get into the fight. First of all, they're going to make money, okay? Every time you stir the pot, you're going to have people that have, I can sell weapons over there. I can sell dope over there. I mean, there's all kinds of information that, it's a bed of nothing but opportunity for good, bad, and indifferent. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now you get that there, and then you got players on both sides who'll play both sides of the fence. Who can you trust? Who can you not trust? Yeah. Who do you pay for, and how do you keep your hand, on their throat and tickle their nutsack at the same time and get them working with you? I mean, I just don't get it. So what happens is that a coming back on to get in and out of that countries, you have to probably go through, and being American, you go through a consulate, or like Iran, there was 2 or 3 consulates out there, plus the embassy. You come back on, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of processing, and it really strains the security. Now remember, these are not fire bases. These aren't base camps. They're not meant to be defended. They're diplomatic missions, and a lot of times there's no way to, unless you harden them and surround them like an Alamo. There's you can't do it. The embassy itself in Tehran was 27 acres. It was beautiful. It was wide open. It was it's been there for I don't know, 50 years that they talk about before I got there. So anyway, when you have this, you have what we call the fat embassies, the ones that are Rome and Madrid and all the fun spots that you're looking forward to in the future. So they were a lot bigger. So we only had 12 MSGs in Nicosia, Cyprus. That was it. You got 30 or 40 in Paris. So they can afford to have 1 or 2 sent over there for temporary duty, TAD. We call traveling around drunk, but it's temporary additional duty. Yeah. And so anyway, we get, they put it out for Cyprus. Can you, Nicosia contingent, can you, spare one? And the gunnery sergeant at the time, who's the NCOIC at the time, the gunnies put it out at a meeting. And long story short, asked for a volunteer and gave us a little bit of a synopsis of Iran and stuff like that. And I went in and read up that I could on it, and I said, hey, if you don't mind, Gunny, I'd like to put my name in on that. I said, look, get over to Iran, ancient Persia that we were talking about, see all the the times and the signs and a part of the world I wouldn't see, because then when I come back, I'm back here in my little Greek island.
Yeah.
Sign me up. This would be fun, they said. Yeah, sign right here. Next thing you know, yeah, right. So next thing I know, I got orders cut. Boom. I fly out to Athens, spend a couple of days there, and then boom, get an asshole background briefing that was useless. And then, so I said I was in a 3-piece suit when I landed at Mehrabad Airport in Tehran, because it was hell. They were shooting everywhere. I mean, again, they said, don't worry about your bags and things like that. He said, who told you to dress like this? And it was the representative from the embassy. I said, hey, this is what I was, told to do, and Marine follow orders. So anyway, I lost my jacket. They put on a flak jacket onto the M113, and I couldn't believe it. I'm driving down the street, and they're crunching over things. I mean, it's a third world country. And I said, it's just nothing like what I saw. Civil War burned out. There were still cars that were on fire. There was, when they stopped to make a turn, there was we could see a body still in the car burning. I said, holy shit. I go, yeah, different factions going at it.
How long had this been going on before you got there?
It started late 77.
Oh, so this was not within the last few weeks. This had been going on for the last year or two at that point.
Oh yeah, in my book, especially if you get the special edition parts, I've got pictures and photographs and dates and times from their newspaper, the Cayenne or the Tehran Journal. Pictures never seen before. People that weren't getting it out because, again, no internet.
Yeah, and three news stations, no internet. You get what they give you, and that's it. The rest of it's speculation.
AP and I don't even know if Reuters was around then. It was AP or wire trans. It was BBC maybe. I know that was it. So that's when I got there, and then we got to the embassy, and they said, okay. I checked in with the gunny that was there, the NCOIC, and he says, he said, don't worry about your stuff at the airport. We'll get it later. You won't need it. I said, what? So he got me all the gear that I needed and got me assigned to the Marine House there. So we had about, let's see, I think they had a contingent of 14, and they brought 6 more, including me, from other embassies. One was from Madrid, one was from Rome, and I forget, I just can't remember where they're all from. So you have the normal contingency that's there, and then you have the 6 extra. So it made us up to be 19. And then plus the gunny would make 20, and that was just the MSG, for the area that we were, and we were supposedly that it's the embassies are you're there by invitation and treaty, okay, and what you're taught at school is, that's his sovereign territory. You got the wall, you got the gate, you got your sidewalk or whatever, and everything on that wall and inside is yours. American sovereign territory. You own it, you run it. Outside, outside of that belongs to the host country, and they're supposed to provide services, security services, police, especially trained police. You see them up there in Washington D.C. How they're I don't really know what they are, but they're government service employees of some type, armed police that have lethal force and arrest powers. But their job is to make sure that nobody attacks a foreign service mission.
That's pretty standard, right? Most countries have a dedicated local police force that helps support embassy operations or embassy security.
Absolutely. And some of them are trained real well and, pro-American, and some are just there because it pays better than what their normal police, job would be, or they couldn't find anybody else. So,
is that what it was like in Iran? They were just there because, or did they actually feel like they should protect you guys?
That there's a mix right there. At first, when I got there in '78, they were pro-American, and most of them spoke real good English, and we used them for interpretation when we had open posts, where you got posts that allow people to egress and ingress into the embassy, and everything was, because the whole embassy isn't secure, and I say secure. It's not all classified. There's people that come and go in areas.
There's local workers. We call them TCNs now. I don't know if they called them then. Third country nationals, stuff like that.
FSLEs, Foreign Service Local Employees.
Gotcha.
A mix of anybody anywhere. Now, only they wouldn't be able to go into probably the Chancery building, where secret squirrels work or anything like that. But a lot of the other areas that were there, they did maintenance like this, and cut the grass and whatever.
All the logistical support stuff.
All of it. So they provide a lot of that. So we were basically the regular Marines that were there stationed. They were there stationed. They knew the Chancery, and they worked at the Chancery building where the ambassador and all the main officers were. We would have the compound area and the outer gates and things, and basically just watch what was going on. And we would be the focus of when it got really bad, and the rebellion actually became a shooting revolution. You're talking July, August of '78. And I've got pictures of, showing the bodies of, people that had stood up against the Shah's troops. And they didn't usually really call them terrorists back then, but although that's exactly what they were by the sheer definition of it. But they started down the street about 2 miles at the giant soccer stadium. Hell, there'd be 30, 40,000 of them, getting, hyped up, ramped up, amped up. And then, walking down Takht-i-Jamshid Boulevard, which is basically Embassy Road. There's several embassies on there. And they'd rant and rave and scream, throw Molotov cocktails, shoot a few rounds into the place. No big deal. As long as they didn't come over that wall and directly threaten us, there's not a whole lot we could do about it. Okay, kind of like you've seen some of the stuff that was going on up in Minnesota, Seattle, and some of the the problems that we had with the riots up there a couple years ago. Very similar there. I mean, no less dangerous or deadly. I mean, you could catch a brick or a bottle or a stray round all the time. So you had to keep your cover concealment intact for the most part. So, but you see, in Iran they had Tehran. I'll go with that because that's where I know. Is that you have a lot of, they are literally tribes, and the tribes also have factions all over Iran. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they're mixed breeds, and although a lot of them didn't like the Shah, a lot of them did, and that was a split in the family, like North and South, Civil War in the United States. And what else would be going on would be that you have the players in there, the Russians in there stirring the pot, the PLO coming in there stirring the pot. And why were they there? They're Palestinians. Nobody even wanted them. Well, Arafat was good friends with the Ayatollah Khomeini. And some of these actions, although you're right in the middle, you say, I really don't like the Shah, but I don't think he's going to last much longer. I'm really not all pro-Khomeini either, with the, go from a westernized, concept and culture to an overnight, Muslim theocracy. So nobody wanted to, just jump in from one end of the pendulum to the other. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, you couldn't depend on in the military over there it was such a big country in the military that some at their Air Force bases, at Topin Dafi Air Force Base, they wouldn't help the Shah. They wouldn't do anything for him, but they wouldn't do anything for Khomeini either. They'd show up and they'd just sit around. They wouldn't do any maintenance on the airplanes or the birds. They wouldn't pick sides. Other ones did. Mm-hmm. And the Fedayeen was one of those groups that we were informed about and briefed about from the intelligence agencies. And they're saying, well, the Fedayeen, they are a communist faction of a Muslim tribe. How's that work?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, they are paid for anything you want to pay them in poppies and drugs. You don't want to give them, clout. You want to give them military weapons, or just pay them cash. They'll jump into bed with you. So the Russians were just writing checks left and right to these guys. And I alluded to before to the SALT strategic arms limitations, the SALT-1 agreement with the nukes that we were trying to download and get rid of and dismantle with the Russians and everybody else. I think from what I remember right is that they were trying to, Congress, in all their wisdom, wasn't going to go for it unless we could trust but verify. And so how do you verify that? I mean, the northern part of Iran, up near Tabriz and in the Elborg Mountains, right across from the Caspian Sea, is the Russian underbelly of where they do a lot of their missile testings and everything like that, kind of like our Vandenberg Air Force Base, NASA, Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy, whatever they're calling it this decade. So a lot of secret squirrel military counterintelligence guys were up there, and they worked out of our embassies and traveled back and forth up there. And they were tasked, from what I understand, tasked with watching the Russians and making sure that they could politically convince people in Congress that yes, we'll be able to account for and pretty much know when the Russians are lying and bullshitting, et cetera, which would have been SALT, Strategic Arms Limitation 2. And the Russians didn't like that. So it was in their best of interest to harass or bother the American intelligence anywhere that they could. And I guess they got the opportunity one time when to assault the embassy, and it took years later, after 1979, to figure out that they were behind it, and that who they used, the Fedayeen, to assault us that day. Because once they lose that embassy and they control it, now where all the intelligence people were working out in these little satellite areas, that is shut down. Because they got no mother home to go back to or to get into. And now you just don't fly into Medabard Airport and like you're going on vacation. Now you got to surreptitiously go through Turkey and all the other areas, that now pay everybody off if you want to continue running those operations. So once you take out a consulate or an embassy or make it, useless to anybody, it really, kind of puts a damper and a monkey wrench in your game.
Yeah, for sure. How did the assault on your embassy start?
When you get that book, and I'm going to send you a copy of it,
I appreciate
that it starts out with the assault, but it was February the 14th, Valentine's Day. And anyway, 1979, we had, ever since about October, we've been getting shot at drive-bys, and it was getting more and more, shall we say, prolific at times. And actually, the apartment complexes and high-rise apartment complexes and office buildings around the embassy and the mission was we were really concerned about them because from up there they can assault us from a elevated position, and you're shooting down in an open area, an open compound. It's just like shooting fish in a barrel. It was very, very untactical. But at that point, what are you going to do with it? It's outside the embassy. You don't have a whole lot of say-so on it. You can piss, moan, and groan you want to the local government, who at that time was falling apart and had other things to do besides give a shit about the American embassy. Anyway, we'd have people. They drive by. They throw a few Molotov cocktails over top of the wall, and sometimes when we walk out there in the morning, we go out there. They hadn't even lit the rag or the wick on it yet, so we were just collecting these up and pissing, putting on it. I mean, they weren't the top of the line, rocket scientists of the terrorist genre, for the thing. But there were some that knew what they were doing, and they caused a lot of problems with us. Eventually, it got so dangerous that we had to shut we had a satellite consulate right down for visas and things like that, just down the street, that we nicknamed eventually Fort Apache, because we couldn't protect it anymore. They good drive-by, shoot it up so much, it was useless. Nobody wanted. It used to be at one time people standing in line, to get the services there. Now it was why even have anybody out there? So we shut that down, brought those Marines back onto the post. But it was, I believe, Monday the 12th February, is that normally we turn when you're done with your tour of duty out there, 8, 10, 12 hours, depends what section of the embassy you're at. You would go to the armory, turn in your M16, any grenades, any smoke, anything you had, but you kept your sidearm. And the next time I came on duty, they had given us a briefing, and we went to the armory, and they wouldn't issue us our M16s or grenades or anything. They issued us shotguns. Remington 870P shotguns. Police, the P being a police, where it was a pistol grip once you folded the stock down. I said, what the fuck is this? I said, shotguns? We can't do dick with shotguns. Now, they're great during the hallway, close range, 30 yards in or less. I know, great for riot, but maybe down the hallway if you're shooting room to room. But I mean, we are going to engage. We get the most high probability of engaging multiple adversaries that will probably outman us, and they have 30 caliber 7.62 weapons, all bought by the United States. What's down about a quarter of a mile away was the Amish Mag, which was a joint operation National Guard armory between the Iranian army under the Shah and our own, American military army. And I said, they just raided that thing last week. So these guys are out here running around with, there was Belgian FN J3s or G3s, they call them, the Chase, and in Persian, in Farsi. And I said, and I pissed and moaned and groaned. And now, I was one of the senior sergeants, although I wasn't in rank and pay grade, although compared to the other Marines. But I wouldn't have any rank structure there per se, because the regular Marines that were stationed there, basically came first, unless it was a different rank. Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
So any other sergeant that was there, regardless, he'd be in charge of command, whatever. But anyway, I went to Gunny Sutton, the NCOIC, and I pitched a fit, a bitch. I gave him everything that was logical, that was moral, and what the hell was this? And he knew about it, because Richard Thomas, the RSO, Regional Security Officer, our boss from the State Department, had fought against also the order. Said, where's the order, Gunny? Where'd the freaking order come from, and who the fuck is making this order? Mm-hmm. I said, they're not here. They don't know what's going on. This is mentally incompetent. Okay, this is not going to work. This is setting us up for failure. So that was tough shit, Marines, suck it up. I said, here's your shotgun.
And that's 2 days before everything goes down, right?
48 hours.
Damn.
Said, by the way, we're on a 24-hour alert, which normally you keep your weapons, and when you get off, you can't drink. You're not off. You're on standby. So get your shit, shower, shave. What do you want to do? But be ready for. So they knew. Justin, they knew. Somebody knew. I don't know who the fuck they were, but whoever it was, that had to come. Who gives the ambassador? Who gives an ambassador orders? His boss in fucking Washington. Come on.
Yeah.
Do the goddamn math, will you? So nobody could explain to us why, and you're not going to. Do or die, Marine. That's it. You just do. Okay, fine. That being said, I said the next time we went to post, I'm sitting here looking at this, and I go, damn. Now, the saving grace of it is that you could have all the ammo you wanted. Okay, we had the old BDUs, battle dress uniforms, and fatigues they used to call them. Remember?
Yep.
And the cargo pockets, and we would just dump. They was handing whole boxes of shells to you, as much as you wanted to carry, and just dump them in there. So you'd have I know, double lot buck, I mean, triple lot buck, number 5 shot, 6 shot, 9 shot, I know, skeet, for the most part that we would use, to keep. Skeet was pretty good because you could actually not use it as a deadly force. You could, we're trained to, shoot it down in near your ankles, below your knees, things like that, less than lethal force, whatever. Anyway, and slugs, if you were lucky enough to get a box of slugs. So that and you're a handgun. So I could probably have about 100 rounds on me, and you carry more than that. We didn't really have the bandoliers of ammo back then. I mean, again, this is only 4 years after Vietnam.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And the old what literally we call a flak jacket. That was it was a hard ceramic deal. I know, and it wasn't the soft Kevlar ones that we had today. I don't know what the difference was. If it 7.62 hits you direct on, it doesn't. It's going through. It's going to get you. So that being said, I said, okay, well, what's wrong with this picture? Take away our M16s where we can fire automatically if we needed to. We can also engage people well over 100 yards, which is cover anywhere in the embassy. We can shoot back if they were shooting at us in the high-rise apartment complex, which they will be doing. And I said, why would they do something like this if they didn't know it? And then why are we on this 24-hour alert? So Monday came and went, Tuesday came and went, and when I started opening my book, I'm standing post and winding down that morning. There was just me at my post where in the morning I would be relieved by 2 during the day because there's a lot more pedestrian traffic. But relieved by the post, and there was something weird about it. And again, I referenced the book because it'll put your mindset when you read it, because it's first person, second person, third person. And I'm talking to myself like I'm talking to you. So when you read the book, you're going to be listening to me talking to myself. I said, "There's something wrong here, Justin." I said, "Man, Kenneth Kraus, it's too quiet. It's the middle of the week. I know it's Wednesday morning, February 14th." And I said, "It was awful quiet. Normally we have drive-by shootings and people prowling around, throwing things over the wall, just harassment or testing our response. I don't know, a little bit of all." So I said, it's that morning sun's come up. And so the 2 Marines that relieved me, and I said, it's something weird about this. And I told them that just recently, within the last few minutes, 2 females that I know I know their code names. I don't know if I can use them now, but anyway. No, I'm going to make them up for this. I said, I would tell them that they came in that morning. My post was in between. It had an outer area towards the PX, okay, where the Foreign Service local was, and a gate with the Caravanserai restaurant, real nice restaurant, open to the embassy, embassy personnel. But we had the area, the ingress and egress in the back part that led on to the embassy compound itself. So we had to watch that, during the day. If you weren't cleared to come on the embassy, you could use the restaurant. And you could use the PX, but you couldn't get by us because we were the checkpoint. Anyway, so to the operatives, when we came in that morning for breakfast, and right through checked their credentials, they went in, so they're gonna sit down, have breakfast, and I told the Marines relieving me, I said, Windmill and Peanut are having breakfast inside. So I said, okay, great. They weren't really our big fans of us, and them either. They don't like to have. They couldn't carry weapons, and they're supposed to tell us what to do. I said, no, you're an intel people, and if they do something wrong, we have the authority. Write them up, lock them up, and then let it go from there, because we're the cops in that place. You're not going to call the Farsi police for them. So there was mixed feelings about it, but it's just always when any of that ilk or genre was around, you let the other Marines know. So we weren't laughing, joking, bullshitting, and say things we're not supposed to politically say.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, and these just happened to be female at the time. So I mean, back then it's really taboo. I told him, I said, something's weird about this. I mean, I just don't know what it is. And he said, oh, maybe I'm just tired. I haven't slept, 14, 16 hours. And they said, okay, we'll take care of it. Boom. I could smell the cooking in the kitchen. I said, yeah, they have that shit. I won't eat again until 4 o'clock, 1,600 hours. But anyway, I went in and got my breakfast. Saw my favorite waiter in there, and eyeball who was there. And again, something was weird about it. There wasn't as many people in there. It was normally really quiet. And the waiter's name was Minachi. And he says, hey, good morning, Sergeant Ken. How are you? Da, 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 da. And I say, hey, well, what's up? He goes, he asked me. He says, so what's up? He says, the Farsi police, the gendarmerie, or whatever the fuck they call them. Back then, I said, the Farsi cops that were just supposed to be outside our wall would sometimes come in. The ones that on that side of the embassy would come in, have their breakfast before they went to post, before they did their patrol, whatever. And I said, that's what it is. I said, I don't know. We didn't see them outside. We checked the cameras at the side, and I went back out to the post and told the 2 Marines, I said, here's what it is. I said, there's no Farsi police outside. And what? We checked the cameras, the closed circuit TVs, and sure as shit, sidewalks empty, the streets empty. This is like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay, you should have traffic. You should have something on a major street like this. Mm-hmm. Knew something was wrong, and I said, oh. Let's call Post 1, which is the command and control for the MSGs up there. And he said, yes, they've been alerted to it because obviously a main gate is having the same, unique situation. And they said, yeah, we're aware of the situation. We're letting the RSO know, and he's going to be, calling whoever he calls on his side of the fence over there and the, diplomatic side. Say, hey, where the fuck are your cops? You know what I mean? They ain't here. They're AWOL. And so I said, okay, fine. Did my job, give him the sit rep report, and I moved on. And I went back to the Marine house, and I was dead tired, man. I remember this like it's yesterday. And it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe 10:10. I took my gears off. I had stowed my weapons, and I just laid down on my bed. I still have my flak jacket on. I go, man, don't fall asleep with this on. You'll regret it. You'll have a stiff neck and whatever. And just put my radio into the charger when all of a sudden I hear a crack on the radio, and it said, they're coming over the wall. They're coming over the wall. I'm taking rounds. And just when I hear that, I hear the rounds themselves. I hear gunfire. And I think it was at the time, it didn't alert me because it was the only thing that alerted me about it was that it was small arms fire. And we've heard that a lot, pistols, but it was a lot closer. So I mean, it was like on the compound. I go, man, that's who the fuck's shooting at each other? Mm-hmm. And it was a Corporal Downey. He was at the front gate. Well, there's 4 of them up there at the front gate, the motor pool gate. Walk through, and that's where everybody come on the embassy, and right in front of the chancery. And he said, they're taking fire. Request permission to fire. And I said, what the fuck? And the next few seconds, while the radio traffic was going back and forth, it went from handguns to rifles. And you start hearing a crack of a rifle is a lot different than a pop of a handgun.
For sure.
And you can hear, say, fuck, it's got rifles. Who the fuck? And then it went from rifle fire to sustained automatic weapon fire. I said, what the fuck's going on? It's all like in 30 seconds. Ba-da-ba-da-bam. And I said, what? Fuck, what's going on? This ain't no drill. Marines don't have the rifles. Who the fuck is shooting at us? And sure as shit, they're coming over the wall taking rounds. And I said, this ain't no goddamn drill. This is fucking real. This is a goddamn gun battle. So I grabbed my gear, grabbed my radio, grabbed my shotgun, and following SRT, where you use special response training or your protocols, basically is for us to get back. When we aren't on post to manage your post, is to get back to the Chancery building, engage anybody on the way that's an enemy target or threatens your life. Get back to the Chancery, button it down, turn it into an Alamo, and call for the cavalry. That's our job. Get the ambassador, basically. You're playing save the ambassador and buy them time and follow the orders of who's ever in charge over there. Well, there's no way to get across this open field. You're talking 27-acre compound. And the din and the noise was just so loud. I mean, you've been in a firing range before, even with the earphones on. It's just the phone time every once in a while when you put your ear protection up and then somebody fires nearby and go, shit, man, I put my ears back on. It rattles your cage. Now we don't have any ear protection there. It's all shit live fire, man. And you can just look across the the compound. You say, man, that's like 150, maybe 200 yards to the chancery, and everywhere around the compound outside that we knew before and we was afraid of, sure as shit. All the compounds, all the area up there, the high-rise apartment complexes, the business offices, things like that. They were on balconies and just shooting down indiscriminately, randomly, trying to keep our heads down so that that's cover fire, and we couldn't fire back. And shit, that they had us at a range of 300 yards. We couldn't fire 50 yards with a freaking. And that's if you had a slug or something. So we were outmanned, outgunned, you name it. They had this element of surprise. We were covered from elevated position. We had nothing going for us at that time. And trying to look across and survey, getting across that, I said, there's no way. I could actually see rounds rounds hitting the trees that were there and the leaves falling down. I could see them bouncing off the windshields of cars. I said, that's suicide. There's going to be no way I get across. The only place I could go back to was my secondary fallback, is the last post that I was at. So I went back there, and the two Marines that were there, they were hunkered down. And I said, we can't get to the chancery, not from here. I said, we're cut off. The old Motorola bricks that they had for radios, they had the push-to-talk channel. Mm-hmm. You push that down. As long as you had that there, you got that little turkey chirp. You blip, 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 to try to talk. You held that down. You opened up the net, and everyone could hear what was going on, but nobody else could use it. So that started the assault, and we could hear indiscriminately. That went on and on for about 10, 15 minutes of just automatic sustained weapons fire. And we didn't know. We weren't hearing anything, no command, no control, no coordination. And I said, so what's the next best thing we need to do? And I discussed it with the other Marine was a sergeant, and the other one was a corporal. And I said, well, we can't hold this position here. I said, because now we understand why the Farsi police weren't on the other side. Mm-hmm. Nice of them, that morning. And nice of them not to give us the heads up, the bastards, And that's why a lot of people knew what was going to happen. That's why they weren't around the embassy walls on the outside. Like a big surprise. And so I made the decision. I said, look, we can't hold this place here. I said, we can't let these people into the embassy. We can't let them back out onto the street. So the people that were working with Foreign Service local employees, they're Pakistanis, Filipinos, whatever. Some of them females. They were working over the PX. They said some were shoppers, whatever. And get them out of there. And I said, let's get them back into the Caravan restaurant. We'll border that stuff up here. We'll hunker down. And that's where Chapter 2 starts, is that now we are separated from the rest of the embassy, and we're locked up in a restaurant, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen.
I understand that the Iranians came in and you confronted them in the restaurant itself, correct?
That's correct.
Now, here's what happened. Tell us about that if you can.
Okay, so we barricade ourselves up. There's 3 ways to get into the in and out of the Caravanserai restaurant. 2 are in the non-classified areas. A classified area, really, we call it that, but it's not. It's just the way you get from the restaurant directly into the embassy, not into that little area where we were. I know it's confusing, but when you look at the map and you read what I'm saying in my book, that makes sense. So it's a half moon, and you can come and go in 2 of the doors into the restaurant. You weren't going to get into the embassy. You have to come out of the restaurant and to my post to get into the embassy, but we control that. So we're waiting. We're trying to we try to call post 1 on the hard line. Nothing. No, there's no answer. So we're no command, no control. We have no idea what's going on in the rest of the 27 acres that are out there. Okay, you can hear in between some of the I say, for the lack of anything else, reloads or whatever they were doing. You could hear the pop of shotguns. So I know Marines are firing back. Okay, so this is a full on, but we don't know what condition or where. All over the place. Couldn't get through to post 1 on the hard line, so we're in Communicado. We're done. We're on. So I talked with the other 2 Marines, and I said, hey, here's the way it is. Here's the situation report. I said, I don't know what the fuck's going on. We have no clue. I said, give me a head count of how many we got, and just tell me how many women beside in the head count. And so we barricaded the doors, and I talked with Minachi, and he's a local area guy. He's been there. His dad's been there. I mean, he was just a a staple of the embassy. He's been there forever. He knows everything, everybody. So he's my interpreter, and he was a really good, nice guy, just down to earth. And waiter, he couldn't get a better waiter or server. It was like he took being a server to next professional level. I mean, that was his pride and joy to be that way. Anyway, so he was just saying, I said, what's happening? I said, oh, I don't know, but hang tight here. I need you to, talk what's going on. Well, shortly thereafter, shortly, you talk another 10, 15 minutes, some type of vehicle, it looks like, I'd say it's a Jeep, but it looks like a Jeep, but it's built like one. And it crashes through the back gate that led into that little Half Moon area. And in poured about 30 or 40 armed insurgents. Some was in military gear. Some were in plain clothes. You get a copy of the book, you'll see them. I got pictures of them there. And you look at them and say, yeah, the way they're carrying their weapons and the way they're dressed, they look, hardcore. I said, yeah, but there's a few hardcore in there. But the way you can tell that the way they walk, the way they manipulate their weapons. I said, but you know what? In a firefight, it really doesn't fucking matter. When there's 40 of them and 3 of you,
And you're carrying shotguns.
Oh, yeah, no shit.
Like,
now, in this case, shotguns are applicable because if and when we get into it with them, we're going to be shooting with less than 50 yards. So we got a working fighting chance.
Yeah.
I still would have preferred an M16, I know, but not there. So they busted down the gate. They came in right away. They just swarmed the area. They could see they couldn't get it. There's a secondary wall to get over into the chancery that we could cover fire, and they went right away. They went right into the PX and just raided that place. And I go, good, go in, take all you want, leave us the fuck alone. And I'll get in there. They're having a goddamn good time, and a couple of them started walking over to the restaurant and checking the doors and checking the windows and looking in. And I told them very quiet, play dead, nothing. And, I guess I'm speculating at that point. That's what I said in my book, is that they figured out somebody was in that restaurant. The movement or looking in the windows, I don't know. But they come to the conclusion that there's some people in there. And they started speaking Farsi. I guess, again, assumption that it was Iranians that were in there. So Manachi translated for me. And I said, what's up? And he's saying, this is not good, Sergeant Khan. He said, these are Fedayeen Kalk. Khalq, bad guys. I said, what's that mean? And he says, they're communists. And he says, they're paid terrorists. He says, they're like, if you had a muscle part of a mafia, that's what these guys would be. Okay, paid. They don't care who they work for. And who do you want dead and how much is going? Here's what it's going to cost you. So that's where they're at. And he says, very bad. He said, very bad. He said, if they get in here, he said they'll kill you. And then they will abuse everybody in here. They'll kill almost everybody in here. And I said, well, shit. I let the other two Marines, I called them over. I said, here's the situation from what Manachi says. And he says, well, now they're banging on the doors and they know somebody's in there. And while we're talking, we're discussing, our options and whatever. And he said, well, do we surrender? Because these guys are demanding in Farsi that if there's any military, any Marines in there, I said they will be shot and killed. He says otherwise, if you open the doors and let your Iranians, they're trying to make a deal. Iranians could go free, and that's I'm getting the shorthand version from Manachi. So I let the other Marines said, "Hear that, guys?" I said that kind of rules out the chance of us surrendering. We have a post. We have no orders to surrender. I said, and we got these people's lives in here. We ain't surrendering. And I looked them both in the eyes, and we looked at each other, and we knew what that meant. I said, holy shit. So anyway.
That's hardcore, man. A bunch of early 20-year-olds going through something like that.
Oh, yeah. And it's still, the firing and the shooting's going on, whatever. And I could look out the window and get a glance of where the flagpole was over by the Chancery. Flag was there a couple hours ago. American flag's gone. I said, fuck. So without command control with anything, I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We had everything barricaded, and I said, talk to them in Farsi. They know we're here, and then speak all to them also in English. Okay, so yes, there are Americans in here. Don't say anything about being a military or Marines, all right? Let's just see if they buy this shit and go away. So we're going to chisel away and negotiating as best we can. Well, they ain't going to have no fucking part of that. So they're back and forth in Farsi and English Farsi. And I said, okay, his name's Jack. And I said, Jack, I said to one of the Marines, I said, post you here. I said, the other one, I put another post so we have a crossfire and I'll be in the middle. I said, fields of fire, et cetera, gave them their directions. And at that point, they kept banging on the door, and somebody had taken an automatic weapon and just out of nowhere and just shot the shit out of the lock that was there, the locking mechanism to lock the doors. They're two wooden doors. It just shot. It took him like 3 magazines to do it. He's a shitty shot, or it was a hell of a goddamn good lock. But anyway, he eventually shot it, and you could see that that it was giving way. And I said, well, once that lock goes, the only thing that's going to be holding that door is the barricades, the tables, the chairs, everything we could find to throw up there. And I said, oh, shit. Well, I said, what do you want to do? I said, they're going to come through there. They're going to breach that door. Even if that vehicle in, they're going to breach that door. I said, at that point, I said, where's it going to be? And while I was talking to that, saying that, this clown puts his hands through and pushes what's left of the lock right through. So now I got a hole where he's putting his hand in, trying to figure out, what's holding the door. I shot the lock out, and I still can't get the door open. Well, I don't know. Even in my book, it said, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. Just instinctively, I drew my pistol, and at that time, I was a distinguished expert in pistol. And this was within 20 feet. I couldn't fucking miss if I tried with my eyes closed. I put my pistol, and I shot at his hand. Now, I had a Smith & Wesson 19, it's 357, and I had hollow points in it. And from what I could see, it hit right on his knuckle, and it just blew that thing, turned into a stump. He pulled that back out, and the yell and the scream that I heard was just incredible. And I looked over at Jack, and he goes, "Oh, it's time to dance." He said it in Spanish, and I wrote it in Spanish in the book. And he goes, "Oh, time to dance now." And the other Marine, the corporal, he was from New England. So I got this Hispanic guy is from Texas, and his accent, and I got a guy that parks his car in the yard up here from Boston. It's throw the levity and the Marine Corps levity into it. It was kind of funny, and so it all happens in like seconds. Okay, Justin, he pulls his stump out, and I can just imagine. Not then I didn't, but over the years and decades, I can imagine what those guys who were standing out there around when he pulled that thing back, and it was just bloody stump, squirting blood. What their look on their face would have been.
Yeah.
And sure as shit, they opened up on, and there's at least a dozen of them, and everybody firing automatic. And the din, the noise. I said, get down, take cover. We jumped down, hit the floor, and got everybody else. We had already put in the way back, in the kitchen and near the cooler, because it's the most ballistically protected place in the whole compound, except for the chancery. We had them back then. It was just the 3 of us out there in that dining room area. So we knew it was coming. Once I had to take that shot, we dove down. All the bullets came through, and Hollywood couldn't get do this any better. You could see the glasses and everything, and just coming through the windows and shooting the shit out of everything, and it's just popping. And you're all hunkered down. And you just go, I just hope I don't get shot in the ass or the back of the head. You know what I mean? With a ricochet or something.
Yeah.
The glasses like blah, 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 blah. And I said, and the noise, God, it's that close, just outside the windows. It was the din. You couldn't even hear yourself think, Justin. I'm telling you. And just then the lull comes, and I know it was their reload. They're out there, fumble fucking with their magazines, and I don't know what it's. I just came up over top and ordered the other Marines. I said, let him have it. Fire, fuck, boom, boom, boom. And man, we just fucking laid into them. 870Ps, you got 8 and 1 in the chamber, give you 9 rounds. Boom, boom, boom. And then you scream, cover fire, reload. So somebody come out with their pistol, and they cover you while you reloaded. Back up, boom, boom, boom. And he reloaded. So it's just like rolling thunder. And that's what you practice like that when you're in that situation. Damn. Well, some of the schmucks that were out there, that were standing out in the middle of in the compound area, standing out there and fumbling with their magazines, and didn't realize, oops, at least 6 to 8 of them we dropped like that. There was a couple of them that I knew to get behind cover, behind that Jeep or behind the dumpster, the steel dumpster that was there, behind, their reloads. So then we ducked down and back and forth, back and forth. They're firing, we're firing. You got dead and dying laying out there screaming and yelling. I go, this is a motherfucking firefight. Holy shit. So we have at least 3 volleys back and forth. And for some reason, they stopped their firing. Maybe they were short on mags or they were getting low on ammo also. Who knows? I don't know. But there was a bit of a lull. You can see the ones that were already dead, they were hitting the face. They were hitting, in the chest. None of them that I saw had any ballistic on it back then. This was, like I said, 79.
Yeah.
Ballistics weren't, ballistic vests were only for the elite, not these morons. And and then there's a couple that's rolling around, writhing in pain and, screaming. I said, holy shit. So that's the assault there. We go through this for about a half an hour, 3 or 4 rounds, and there's a lull in that action, and I get hold of the other 2 Marines. I said, okay, ammo check. And so we see who's got what ammo left, and we divvy up in between, so we all have about equal amount. And I said, the dudes, we're fucked. And I said, here's the situation. I said, we got about enough ammo for one more assault, and then we're gonna be out of ammo, and then they're going to get through that door. They're going to breach that door. And then it's going to be hand-to-hand, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I had a K-bar on me. I had my K-bar tape. And, I looked at Jack, I look at Henry, and I look at him, and I'm saying, I'm looking at you, and I'm saying, you know what that means. I'll say, yeah, close quarters battle. Hand-to-hand. You're going to have to. And I looked at Jack, and I said, you got a knife? Again, his humor. He goes, hey, man, I'm Mexican. What do you think? And he did. He had a knife, funny knife. I looked over at Henry and said, you got one? He goes, nah, but there's some nice kitchen knives, butcher knives in the kitchen. I go, yeah, right on, buddy, go get one. And, so you're trying to put this into perspective is that, oh, you've got trained with that, and you have residual every year training in it. But, man, if you ever gone face-to-face with 2 or 3, and it's going to be at least 2 or 3 per Marine. And I mean, you're going to have to stick somebody with intent to kill and then move on. And I'm saying,
without getting stuck yourself.
Well, that's if when they come through the door, they can just blow you away.
For sure.
So, I mean, you're going the assumption. So what do you want? A quick bullet or, getting stumped and beat to death and, stabbed like a porcupine? Dead is dead.
All bad circumstances or options.
So, so they tried one more assault, and we repelled that one, and that was one in the book that to this day, when you read that book, I want people that when they read it to contact me, and I pick out 7 miracles because it's a book about miracles, what it is, and not so much religious and per se, but miracles of any things. When you read that book, that don't line up, anything that goes left or sideways, the whole thing, the dominoes all fall. I'd not be here today. Nobody be here today. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. They weren't just happenstance of circumstances. It was incredible, man. I'm telling you. So anyway, as they try to fire and maneuver, the 3 of us, we just stood there by the windows and we just gave it back to them. Boom, boom, boom. You're talking about a gun battle in less than 50 yards, and it's all rifles and shotguns, not even pistols in this point. I talk about it, Justin, because I said it was. It took years later of going through the feelings of it was absolutely petrifying, terrifying. You don't even know if you pissed or shit on yourself, but it was also exhilarating because there's bullets flying past you, and it's the ultimate video game.
I was gonna say it's the ultimate game.
I look at it today, and you're just looking at you're going from a bead to a bead to a bead to a head to a bead to a bead, like that, boom, boom, boom. And we repelled them one last time, and they pulled back, and I don't know how many dead are dying now. Shit, I can't count them because you're not just standing, I shot you, and you're watching. No, you're moving your head. You're trying to assess. Anyway, one of the guys that I had out there, one of the terrorists that I had pegged a little earlier, that was giving orders, looked like he was, directing things as the leader. I nicknamed him Mustasha just because I say, what he looked like. That was my Russian version of, mustache, because he had a big ass mustache. And anyway, God, see some of the details that come back and that like a flashback.
Isn't that
it's
crazy?
Amazing. It is, man. Oh God. Smells are even worse. But anyway, so somehow he had gotten up over the wall and across the steam pipes that were above ground and got around kind of like behind us, but in an area where he was checking the other door. And now as he walks around the corner, I see the shadow and I go, who the fuck is that? You know, and as he walks around, I stick my shotgun right out the broken window, and it was 5 feet, maybe 8 feet, you know, and I said, freeze. Now, this clown is in a semi-suit, okay? He's carrying a bandolier 7.62, 30 cal, but he's holding an Uzi, 9mm. And these guys hate the Israelis and hate Jews anyway, so what's he carrying an Israeli? You know, whatever the fuck. It's a clown show, it really is. And I hold on him at shotgun point, and I see something in the book, when you read it, it'll say why I didn't pull the trigger and blow his brains out. And he froze, I froze, and we'll move along the story. And I said, look, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you represent. But I said, this is not going the way you thought it was going to be. And I'm sure they did. They didn't expect the Marines to give them, you know, a hell of a fucking fight. And I said, look, we got a lot of non-combatants in here. Americans, your people, my people, foreign service, local people, a lot of people. You understand English? He spoke pretty good English. And I said, here's the way it's going to be. I said, you are either going to back off, let these people out, let them go out the back gate, down the Kuchipijan gate, and they go free. I said, they're not combatants. They got nothing to do with it. You can look at them and you check them. They have no weapons. I said, they go free. And I said, I will surrender myself, my Marines, and our equipment over to you. I remember this every time I even think about this. And he said, and what if I don't? I'm going to blow your fucking head off. And you better make a decision real quick because the shotgun's getting mighty fucking heavy. So it was impasse for a few seconds. And he did the most unbelievable thing. Justin, he calls another guy over from this way, come on. And he comes over from behind the Jeep, and, you know, now I can't believe what this guy did. He just put another target in front of me. Now I got two. You know, I can't miss. It was a BOGO. Blast one, get one. It was beautiful. You know, so I'm sitting there, and they converse, and when he's done talking with his boyfriend there, they said, okay, you know, they made a deal. Well, we made the deal, and we put one of the Marines up above the door so that when the doors open, one by one, they were frisked, they were checked, and they were allowed to go out the back door because he had a bead right on his head. And I had told Malachi to tell this guy, if he gropes one female that leaves here, he's going to get shot in the fucking face. Explain it to him in that vernacular. And they knew. I mean, they still got dead and dying laying out there, blood splattered everywhere, so they knew we weren't fucking around. They didn't realize how little ammo we had left. I mean, it was nothing. But they didn't even know how many, you know, of us were in there. They just know that it's costing them dearly to get the fuck in there.
Yeah.
So one by one, they get out, and those two intelligence officers, because I looked at them, and you know, they were scared shitless, and they said, you know, finally we got the one-upsman on them. They go, huh, now you see why we're here. Your whole, I didn't say it, but in my mind, I mean, your whole fucking life is in my hands, bitch. Remember that if you ever get out. And, you know, you can see that they had the look in their face. I still remember their eyes. I know they were glad that we didn't let them get their hands on them, because sooner or later, according to when they take the embassy upstairs, they're going to find out who these people are.
Yeah.
And it's not well for them at all.
Yeah.
Because, see, supposedly the Savak, which is the Shah's Gestapo police, were supposed to be trained by the CIA, and people know that the CIA was, put the peacock throne back there when the Shah's in power, et cetera, et cetera. So they got a real hate for him anyway. So they coordinate the two of them together. So they were pretty happy, and you could see that they were very appreciative of what we did. And I said there was no other way to do it. I mean, that was miracle number 3. Go through the book when you see, because if that guy had done anything, said anything, or went for his weapon, he was dead. I couldn't miss it with my eyes closed. It was not at that range, not a shotgun. Anyway, so I said, okay. And I told the other Marines, I said, here's what's going to happen. I said, and this is what I negotiated. He goes, that's just as good. You know, and we had no guarantee that when they breached that door and they come through, they weren't going to kill us anyway.
Yeah.
But at least now they don't have anybody else to abuse or anything. So I mean, we were going down. We figured it out, and I said, make peace with your God because you're about to see him. And the adrenaline dumps that we're not having to sleep, and just the adrenaline dumps that come in and out of you, and they just wear you out, man. I mean, they just deplete you. And all the noise that we've been shooting through, I mean, everything, time frame, you're looking at it just went crazy. So we took, after the last non-combatant got out, we took our shotguns, we beat the barrel down and bent it, anything we could, took the radios apart, got rid of the antennas, anything that could be used against us and put it in a pile in the middle of the room. That's our protocol. Okay, you leave the enemy nothing that they can be used against you. And then we stepped back and we said, okay, come on through the door. We moved the stuff that was barricaded the door, and they kicked the door. And I said, okay. I had asked Manachi, how do you say, surrender? How do we surrender? It's taslim koni, and that's what we were chanting when they came through, and our hands were up. And just as they came through the door, this guy, the first guy that came through, big guy, he let loose with a burst from his subgun, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. And goddamn, till this day, it was Manachi. He didn't leave with the other ones. Justin, he had hidden in a little alcove there it served as a linen closet, and he was hiding there. We didn't see him. I had not directed the other two Marines or the corporal to do a head count when they left. I guess we just mixed up. It was my responsibility. We had the head count when we come in, but we didn't count the ones going out. I don't know if it was just the noise, all the confusion, so much going on in your head, but we just assumed also, I guess, presumed everybody had a chance. To, like a fucking rat getting on a goddamn sinking ship was out the back gate. They couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
So we didn't check. We didn't do the head count. Manachi had stayed for whatever reason. He stepped right in front of the guy with the sub gun and took the blast that would have hit me.
Damn.
He fell in my hands. I fell on top of him, and I just scream. In the book, you see, man. Every time I think about it, it's like I failed him.
Nah, man, I wouldn't say that. That's being too hard on yourself.
But anyway, so
I know nothing I could say or anybody else could say will change your mind on that, but that's being too hard on yourself. Imagine, no one can imagine a situation like that where you are three dudes against a superior military force and you are having to not only survive an onslaught of them trying to get into the building, but also, get to the point where you can negotiate to surrender and save all these hostages. I mean, how could you have done it better? It's just not, I don't think that's possible, man. I don't know. And I know, again, there's nothing I can say will ever change your own mind and stuff like that, but just know, I don't think anybody would ever question anything that you did in that moment.
And it's weird because you think that from that day on, whenever I think about that, I get so anal about everything. And, fast forward years later when I worked for Department of Energy and then I became a law enforcement officer on the street, I would check and double check and I said, I have to check it. I have to see it. I was so anal that I have to know. I got to see. I got to test fire it. I got to know for a fact, not just assume. Mm-hmm. I hardly ever make another assumption like that again. Anyway, so that clown that was Mustafa, his guys came in, grabbed hold of the two Marines, started beating them, roughing them up, checking them out, and he said something in Farsi, and his guys went through and cleared the buildings and ransacked whatever they wanted to, and I was just beside myself, holding Manachi, and saw his eyes glaze over, and his blood got hit right in the chest. And I just look up at this bastard, and he walks in, and this motherfucker hated me. I mean, I've never seen hate in my life. Because I just made an ass out of him out there, in front of all his people. And then when he came in, he walks in, and he sees the pile of shit that we left, there. And he was livid. I mean, Justin, he came unfucking glued. He went berserk. He's screaming and yelling and back and forth. And this is how you Americans make deals and break treaties. No wonder everybody in the world wants to fucking kill you. Ba-da, 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 ba-da. Then he got real quiet. And he just stared at me. And I looked at him and I said, hey, I don't know if I said it in a comical way. It comes out in a comical way, levity in the book. But it was meant to kind of like, calm him down. Did the opposite. When I said, hey, look, I said you get my Marines, you get me my Marines and our equipment. I didn't say what kind of condition it'd be in. Oh, fuck, that lit him up. Oh, mm-hmm. Well, out of nowhere, he said something in Farsi, and I felt this kick on the side of my face. It rolled me back, and then they just put the boots to my ass. And they picked me up. They picked me up. My hands were up in the air, and I'm trying to talk to him. My face is all contorted. He said something else to him, and it hit me with a gun butt right in the. It was an AK, by the way, because I remember the wooden stock, and caved in and broke a couple of my ribs. So that put me down on the ground. I couldn't get up. And they put the boots to me again. I mean, and I was just balled up, to try to save my vitals.
Absorbing blows.
Oh my God, yeah, knees and boots and everything. They had a little later on. I found out they had fractured my sacrum and coccyx bone, so I couldn't even feel trying to get up, and like your legs are on fire. Mm-hmm. So after that stopped, he grabs one of the 870Ps and shotguns, and he's finger fucking this thing and trying to figure out how to get the slide open. And I'm laying there, and my one eye's open, and I'm looking over at Minachi, and he's laying there, and I'm almost face to face with him. And this Mustafa guy, he figures out how to get the slide open, and he drops around in the chamber. And like everybody tells you, if you ever heard, when it's mostly quiet, and it was, but at that time it was just them maneuvering around, because most of the shooting and everything had abated by now, and the other two Marines were outside. And when they say you hear, when it's quiet enough, you can hear a round go in a chamber, get in chamber in a shotgun. It is very, very unnerving. And then when he points his finger, when he puts his finger, I see him put his finger inside the trigger well and on the trigger, and he looks down at the barrel of it, and he's pointing it at me. You want to talk about irony? Listen to this one. I look up and I see that the barrel had been bent. It beat it on the ground. It had been bent. And mine, especially, had the bead missing off the front. So when he's pointing my shotgun at me. What the fuck? And I hear this little voice inside, and I'm saying, he's going to shoot you, Ken. He's going to fucking shoot you. And I'm talking to myself. I said, I know. Bam! That's just like it happened.
Damn.
It's all over. Shot. Fast forward now, he takes, I come to, I don't know how long it was, minutes, hours, I don't know. And I could feel somebody at least being carried by my arms and on my limbs. And they weren't walking in unison, and they were pulling me, dragging me back and forth each way. And I remember being brought out into the light, and because it was like midday, and it was ice cold in February up there in the mountains, and freezing like crazy. And I remember the blood in one eye, and I'm trying to open my other eye, and I remember seeing the two Marines that were standing up. They had put them up against the wall. Their hands were behind them as if they were going to execute them. I remember saying, God, please don't let them get killed. Please don't. I already lost Manachi today, man. I can't lose these guys. And then I went out. I don't know where I went. I don't know how I got there, who brought me there. But time frame, I think a couple hours later, I woke up in a hospital, or a makeshift hospital. It was an Army field hospital per se. It wasn't quite a hospital, but it was a medical facility. And I was in a bed, and I had IVs in both sides, one clear liquid, one dark liquid. And I went to sit up in a bed, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. So I pulled the covers back. I looked down, and right in my chest area was a bunch of bandages, and it looked like duct tape and some type of surgical tape. And I'm looking at that. I went, oh, God, I can't even move. The blast basically had my flak jacket was on, but open. But whatever hit me, the blast that hit me, most of it was stopped by the flak jacket. I got shrapnel in what happened, but because we fast forward when we go over the story several times, I talked with people in ballistics and the ATF guys and et cetera, et cetera. They had done. We would say, "How come your head wasn't blown off? Or what had happened?" And they almost kind of reenactment it. They figured that because one, he had the stock forward, he's only got the pistol grip, so he's not in a good shotgun position. Yeah. He's not buffered in there. I said, two, so it's not in the shoulder. Two, whatever round was in there, who knows what caliber it was, hits the end of that tube and instantly blows off the end of it. Mm-hmm. Because when I got home and later on, when I got home, they said, yeah, they had, the 2 or 3 surgeries. I go, hey, look at this piece of metal. I mean, it's not even it's not even lead or anything. No, it's a piece of fucking shotgun. But anyway, I'm in a hospital and I go to sit up and I pull back and I said, okay, I got my skivvy drawers on and that's just it. And the blankets. And I pull them down and it's got pictures of me that went around the world. They're in the book. And dog tags are gone, uniforms gone, nothing that could identify me is there. No one's around me. You can smell and hear the place. It's a hospital. It smells, antiseptic and ammonia, whatever they're working with, alcohol. And I happened to just talk to one of the nurses that had me coming by. Her name was Souza, and she spoke a little bit of English. Said, hey, where am I? Ask her questions. Now, I'm telling you, that was a lot of pain from everywhere that I got beat and shot. And, the whatever they had in that IV, it wasn't pain medication. I mean, if they gave me pain medication, it wasn't anything more than aspirin. Trust me. And, so she's saying, shh, you no talk. I said, where am I? Who am I? What's going on? She said, no, shh. I'll be back. You hush, don't talk. She came back a little while later, and the room, remember now, is no windows. So I have no idea if it's night or day outside. Time deprivation starts tick-tock now, okay? Got no idea. She came back later on, and her English was quite good. And she said, look, I said, you be quiet. He says, don't talk. He said, they come for you. And I said, who's they? And he says, they. I said, no, I don't know who they is. And he's saying, they think you're CI. I said, what? CI. What's that? CIA. I said, what? Basically, when you fast forward through this nightmare, whoever they were on the embassy and the calc at that time took that part of the embassy, and I got shot. I don't know why they wanted to save my life. Here I am. They handed me over to some people that were running the hospital. Okay, people in the hospital didn't know who I were, but speculating that they heard that I came from the embassy. Okay, stripped me down, did the minimum, take care of my wounds to keep me alive, whatever. And now here the talk's going around. Oh, he's come from the embassy, and the embassy's been attacked, et cetera, et cetera. So in come around the famous picture that saves my life. Miracle number 4. This guy from the AP, British, and he worked for British Broadcasting Company, sticks his head in and he says, "Hey, you from the embassy?" And he's American or English at least, British accent. Mm-hmm. And I know he's not one of these guys. And he says, He says, yeah. I say, yeah. He said, what happened? And I said, we got assaulted. And I said, I got shot. I said, you military? And I might as well say, just looked down my haircut and everything. I said, yeah. So I'm Marines. And he says, the embassy's been assaulted. I said, there's no the flag's there. The flag's down. There's no communication going out. The Chancery building, there's smoke coming from it. I said, nobody can get in or out or near it. And he said, they might have just killed everybody. We don't know. We're trying to get the information. So he goes, let me get a picture of you. So he takes a couple pictures of me. And that's the one that that goes around the world. And what's so important about that picture, Justin, and I'll fast forward through it. But anyway, that's, God, man, it's just people talk about any one of these things that would have went wrong. And he took off. I said, oh, that's great. Come back. I want to talk to you. I never saw him again. And so I pass out. Short time later, I guess, because the blood had been cleaned off of me. And I look pretty good shape. The photos that he shows, shows a different, situation and condition of me. Anyway, so these goons come in later on and push their way through Sousa and pull the curtain back and start speaking to me in Farsi. And I don't speak Farsi. I mean, I knew the bare basics: hello, goodbye, drop dead, stop, halt, whatever.
Yeah.
And but if you talk about the intel and counter intel, what you're looking at is they'll say something to you to see if you understand it, even if you don't. They'll say by your facial expressions, they'll know whether you understood what they said or not, and how they know you speak Farsi. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the fuck they were saying. Anyway, I couldn't answer him. They ripped the intravenous out of my arms, and just whatever's there is now squirting everywhere. Well, Sousa pushes him back. She bandages it up, and they put handcuffs on me, and try to get me out of the bed. Then they can see when they start to get out, I can't even stand. My ribs they're not broke. They're purple. I don't know if they're broken or what, but you can't even take a breath. It hurts so bad. I couldn't. The muscles on my stomach wouldn't support me. My sacrum and coccyx bone had been cracked. So I mean, I was a pathetic pile of puppy piss. I was useless. So
that's crazy.
They put a blindfold on me, and I said, "Oh God, this is." And then they put a hood on top of that, and they hooded me up. And I said, "That's when I knew I was being kidnapped." And because usually when they put you in survivors escape school, and you learn when they put a blindfold on you because they don't want you to see what's going on or where you're going. Yeah. And it serves to disorient you a bit, when you got your, close your eyes and walk around. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. But when they put a hood over your top of your head, that's because they don't want anybody else to see who you are when you leave. So completely disorient you and make you incognito per se. So drag me out and throw me in a vehicle. And it's freezing freaking cold. I got nothing but this little gown on with my ass hanging out the back, and for the most part, away I go. I'm kidnapped. And a short drive later, I end up in Evin Prison. You can Google that one, buddy. That'll give you something to read about. EVIN.
Yeah, I looked it up. Yeah, it's sounds like a pretty sketchy place to be at. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was the Sawbox torture prison in Iran.
I just can't imagine like what was going through your mind. I mean, because at one minute you're getting ready you come off post and you're going to lay down and take a nap, and the next minute you're in this crazy firefight, actually taking people out at close range, negotiating the release of hostages, and then yourself being shot, kidnapped, and then taken to the hospital, and then on your way to basically going to be tortured for a few days. It's just such an insane, like, nobody can understand what that's like but you. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one can ever relate to that, and that's got to be tough for you to know that almost anyone you talk to cannot relate. Maybe POWs from Vietnam, maybe and other conflicts and stuff like that can, but 99.999% of people can never understand what that was like and stuff. And it's just it's wild, man. When you got to when you got to the prison, what was going on there? Because from my understanding, they took you there and you were tortured. They were trying to get any kind of information they could from you. Is that correct?
In the most sense. From what I understand now, not back then, the people that assaulted the embassy had turned me over to people that were running the hospital. Whoever's in the hospital told the people in the Evin Prison, hey, there's this guy over at the hospital. And not everybody's talking they're not all on the same team, okay? You're talking different factions per se.
Yeah.
Tell the people in Evin Prison, they said, hey, the embassy was taken, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, one of the people from the embassy, he's in a hospital over here. And I said, who is he? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Is he the ambassador? Is he a janitor? Is he CIA? Or we don't know. Well, then get his fucking ass back over here and go snatch his ass up, and we'll give him, a what for and two for talking to. So that's probably what their game plan was. And he says, well, where can we do this? Well, Evin Prisons,
we got the
for
spot.
50 years. No shit. So you get a front row seat, Kraus. And at that point in that prison where, I mean, and the book is really graphic, bro. Let me tell you. You had, this prison is something back from the medieval days. They say pictures of it. If I'd open a book and show you pictures. You got people hanging upside down, getting gutted. You got people being, their teeth broke off and the gum lines, beatings, their feet being, whipped to a point where it looks like hamburger. I said, you've got to read this, that 4th and 5th chapters of there, because it's barbaric. I've never seen anything like it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the fucking Nazis didn't even, or the Gestapo didn't have anything on these sons of bitches. And for the most part, the beatings, the slappings, and just my wounds were so bad, they wanted to know who I was and what I knew. Okay, what of value could I be of me?
Yeah,
I didn't know any of this then. I've since come to talking with people that have been like that have been in the State Department and eventually helped me, write the book. And I said, what do you think about this? Why would they have done it this way? Because you don't think about it back that, you just think about they're going to fucking shoot me, fuck me, or eat me. That's the only things you were concerned about at the time. So, there's a lot of torture that I go through in the book, and it's tough to put here, but for the most part, it was the intimidation factor, the terror factor, and that whether they get information out of you or not, I was forced to sit and watch what they did to their own people. And I mean, it was barbaric. It was inhuman. I don't even think it was so bad. If you Google the name Torquemada, okay, the Spanish Inquisitor, the Grand Inquisitor, that's what I nicknamed this torturer guy. I named Torquemada or Torque when I talked to him in my head in the book.
So you were watching him torture other people?
His own Iranians. Oh yeah.
Damn, dude.
And then, oh yeah, and
that's
then
so crazy.
Then came out. See, broken off back then.
How did they break your teeth off? Would they like punch you in the face? They hit you with a bar?
No, what happens is that you'll see me. You'll read they have a chair. In this chamber they have this chair. It's a steel chair. It's bolted to the floor. Right below it is a drain. When I'm looking at this, I said, what the fuck, what's this for? But once you see them, and they strap you in that, and they Velcro and they strap you, and they put the waist. I call it a waist chain, but it wasn't. It was a leather harness around you. You couldn't go anywhere. So at one time, after I had been watching several poor bastards being tortured, and these were people that the Shah had supposedly worked for the Shah. When he came in, like any other rebellion, they clean out the crazies, they clean out the political prisoners, and then they refill it up with the new people that they don't like, don't trust, until they can find something to do with them. In this case, just torture them. And when they were, God, it's so sick. When they were tortured, some of these people, it was out of revenge. It was just out of being a barbaric, fucking maniac, maniacal, murdering bastards. They weren't trying to extract information. There was nobody there taking notes, nobody taking pictures, nobody taking video. So what good would any of their information give them? They didn't care. This was just payback. This was just torture being inhuman to somebody. And you're forced to sit and watch that, smell the burning flesh, listen to the screams, and watch what happens. Then I realized, I said, oh, now I understand why they had that drain at the bottom of the chairs, because all the blood and the piss and the urine, everything coming out of these people's bodies is going down there. And till this day, when I see chairs in offices or chairs in military barracks for the longest time that resembled that, man, I'll tell you what, that stops me in the middle of my speech. I just look at that chair and just something as simple as a chair, and brings back memories that terrifies you. Anyway, though, is that once I got my turn in the chair, he had pulled out a pistol, and loaded pistol. And this is weird, because these happened day after day after day. Once they had put me down in a cell that's underground, again, since I had been in the restaurant, I had not seen the light of day. Mm-hmm. So when I close my eyes, pass out, and I wake up, or they wake me up, I don't know if I had slept a day, a week, a month, a year. I had no clue. Time deprivation. It was crazy. So when they take you out of your cell and they bring you up here to watch this shit, you're not getting 3 meals a day. So it's not like, well, this is my third day of breakfast. No. You read the book and you find out, they threw you had a bucket of water that you had to fight over, and a big bin of barenge rice. You fought for what the fuck you wanted to eat in there with the rest of the other prisoners. But when they tortured him, they said, "You sit." My turn came when I was sitting in a chair, and they still didn't know who I was, and I was giving them name, rank, position, and that was just the unit, and that was it, just the bare basics that you're required to get. And so they wanted to know what I knew or who I was, whatever. And like I said, I got no way to prove who I was or wasn't. But I remember remembering is that if they have you and they don't know what's going on, you don't want to say that you're useless or stupid or a janitor or nothing, because they don't need you. That's going to be off your ass right there.
Yeah.
You don't want to pretend like you're CIA or anybody really important either, because then they're going to start taking body parts out, and collecting them like a jigsaw puzzle. You don't want to go that route either. You have to give them a balance back and forth. But you're not thinking like that. When you read my book, you're going to say, how the fuck do you keep that all together with all the pain and all the fear and everything else that's going on in you, And so, he had taken his pistol and pushed it, right up against your lips. And he's pushing it, he's pushing. You're going to go back so far in the chair, and then you're out of room. And then your head's all the way back, but that barrel of that weapon's going in your mouth, whether you open your mouth or not. It's going to push it right in front teeth. Which you did. Push it through your teeth. And it looked like a Browning 9mm. It could have been a CZ Czech 75. Back then I couldn't even remember it that far. It's just remember seeing it come. But he was able to have a hammer. It was a double action. He cocked the hammer back, and I seen that. And I said, "Holy fuck! This is the second time in I don't know how long I'm looking down the barrel of a fucking bang." He pulls the trigger. Nothing. I'd probably pissing shit all over myself. I freaked the fuck out. It was an empty chamber. And he just sat there and fucking laughed. Diabolical, mean bastard.
The mind games.
Oh.
Jesus.
Well, he won that one. I'm going to tell you about that one. He pulls it out, and the other goons that were with him, this is just some of the torture, buddy, I'm telling you. The other ones that you read in that book, you're going to say, who the fuck thinks that shit up? And it got to a point where when they had put me in an office, and they had sent in some Russian KGB guys to talk to me, to be friendly, and we can help you. Just tell us, this and this and this about the embassies and who you are, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, no, guys, it ain't going to work. I ain't telling you shit. You just pack your fucking horses up and get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry, Ivan. I can't help you today. And some of it is a little bit comical because I start hallucinating and getting fucking crazy in there. And then there was another time when they sent PLO guys in and offered me, he says, look, you've seen what's been happening to some of these people here. We can't keep that away from you until we know who you are and what you are. And, I said, look, I gave him a little bit of mixture of truth and lies, something that is very believable and perceivable, but yet they couldn't counter it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I told him I come from Nicosia, Cypress, et cetera. You can check it. My paperwork and everything's still in my room at the Marine House, which you fucking guys overran. I said I worked downstairs in the Chancery building. They put me in because I didn't know anybody. I worked in the mail room, which we do have security down there. We will check boxes and X-ray things like that, so they don't bombs and whatnot. They don't send letters of anthrax and shit through there anyway. So that was believable, Otherwise, it wasn't me. They had a regular guy doing that. But back and forth, he said, well, then you wouldn't be able to know who was who and who was worked where in CIA and like that. And I go, well, I suppose I would, but I don't know for sure. He says, well, if we give you names and you photographs, et cetera, and on and on and on. So now he's starting to pressure me, like, what would I do and how far would I go? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, if you are truly, like you said, in the Marine, you would know the training protocols, the response protocols, the weapons and this and that, and, the things that, security that, semi-classified. You just don't let it out all the time. And I said, I probably would know those things. I said, but they would be different at every embassy, because he's trying to he wants me to be a feather in his hat. Yeah. And if I was to, and convince me that if I was to turn coat and give any of this information out, that in turn they would use piecemeal in the future to attack American embassies and kill who knows, to use for just attacking anything anywhere in the world, I'd be guilty of that. Justin, I could not fucking live with that. And I don't know how long I've been there for that thing, but I was getting sick. I could have a fever. I know my blood's going septic. I'm infected. I mean, I'm barely there. I haven't bled the fuck out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I told the guy, I said, look, man, I said, I can't give you that kind of information. And he said, I said, I can't ever be a traitor to my country. I can't be a traitor to my family or to my Marines. I said, I even if I could, I wouldn't do that for you. And he says, oh, we could make you talk. And I said, you haven't yet. I said, if you don't soon, my wounds, I'm going to die here. He goes, oh yes, you are going to die. So you think about that. And he got up and he left. So and there's times in there where you got lulls in there where they come in and play with your mind. Then they come in and they fuck with your body, and they're just wearing you out. When they couldn't turn me, for the most part, I got pictures of these mullahs that are supposedly priests or religious guys that are working on the revolution, now setting up the religious laws, Islamic law, but they like to carry weapons too. I mean, how nice, you know what I mean? What judges? And so they decided to put me on trial. I said, look, we can't get you to turn you this, that, the other thing. We're going to put you on trial for shooting and killing Iranians. That's my job. They started the fucking shit. I'm sorry that, they weren't as good a shot as us. They didn't count on us, engaging them. They just thought everybody was just going to lay down, just like the State Department did when they, took the automatic weapons away. And so I tell them, I said, my murder trial lasted with these three mullahs in there, and it's really good when you read it in the book. Murder trial is about 25, 30 minutes. I had my interpreter, which is my advocate.
Sounds about right.
Oh, man. Well, I just got tired of getting railroaded and all the bullshit they were lying to me about. And I just say, look, I said, you show me the bodies, you show me the videos, you show me, the witnesses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got nothing on me. I'm an American citizen. I don't even recognize this court, this venue, or anything. But I went on and on and on. Man, I sounded like a law student. I mean, I was all over them ass. And so they sent me back to my cell. And the guys that were in there, we had been kind of friendly. They weren't hateful or nothing, to me. They were all doctors and lawyers and jet pilots and everybody else that worked for the Shah. So I've been waiting for their chance in the chamber. So they had said, again, there's no lights in there. I mean, there's no windows in there. You've never seen, no time frame. The time deprivation is off the chart. So after I got back and did a little sleep, they came in, I say the next day, but I have to put this in time frame only because I'm writing it in chapters as it goes along. So you get to this chapter, and they walk back in, they said, my interpreter had come down to my cell. My cell's number 5. The American in cell number 5 is the nickname. And so he said, we have found the answers to your questions have been all answered. We have the evidence, and your trial will not resume. You have been found guilty. So imagine that.
Shocker.
Yeah. I said, okay, so what's next? He says, you'll be executed, shot, tomorrow. Just like that. Really? Fuck, they're really going to fucking shoot me. Again. You got to read the book because I can't even go through it again.
No, I understand.
Justin. And the thoughts that go through your mind and things is that it's a whirlwind of things. You can't believe it. Your mind's not accepting it. You're wondering how's it going to hurt? How are they going to do it? They're going to put you in that fucking chair and put a pistol to your head. They can put it in your mouth. They're going to stick it up your ass, blow your brains out from the other end. You're going to get a firing squad. Like I've got pictures of the people that they did it to themselves, their own people. The Shah's top 4 generals. You ought to see the book. The pictures are gory, and it's the same Islamic Revolutionary Court that condemned me to death. So I know they're going to do it. I mean, it's just
you're just waiting now.
Yeah. So, when the weird thing goes through your mind is that You're scared at first, then you go to your religious, experiences. You start worrying about what ifs, and then it gets to a point where it's depression, it's anger, it's fear, it's terror. Then you just don't give a fuck, and then you start this goddamn whirlwind all over again. And you get to a point you just say, you know what, God, if this is the way it's going to be, fuck it, I can't change it. He says, nobody knows where I am. They're going to shoot me and throw my body in a carcass somewhere. Who knows? And it came down to it, Justin, is that the only thing I really, really, in my heart, that I asked God for, besides just, forgive my sins and, take me in your arms, is that not even that it's going to hurt or anything like that. I don't give it. Just shoot straight. Don't make a fucking mess of it. You know what I mean? A thing was in my mind mostly was, the weird thing is when I'm dead, drag my body through the streets, whatever they want to do. They can say anything they want about me, charge me with any crime. I was a baby raper. I did all kinds of heinous, ugly things. And here he is hanging upside down. Here's your sergeant of the Marine Corps. And they're going to put it on the news. They're going to put it in the newspaper. They're putting it in the newspapers that I got pictures in the book of their own people. So a trophy like me. Here's the guy that shot the people at the embassy. Here's the Marine Commando. I can just see it now. But see, the United States of America is going to have to face that. My family's going to have to face those accusations. The other Marine Corps is, tradition of fine honor in combat. They're going to have to face that. And I wouldn't be there to tell them otherwise. You're now a criminal. You're no longer a Marine, a warrior that serves in the armed forces of the United States of America that guards our country. You're now a criminal. And now I can remember when some of the pilots in Vietnam were shot down. They were captured. They didn't treat them like prisoners of war, per se. I mean, horrifyingly, yes. But in their mind, you had bombed the village, you bombed the school. Mm-hmm. So you were a criminal, you were a murderer, baby killer. In your mind, when you're trained like that, until we started different, is that way. You're a soldier. You're ready to give your life for your country. But you weren't ready to be considered a criminal or an animal. And that's why they killed you like you were one. Like you're some kind of, serial killer or something. So that's what bothered me most, is that it said, Lord, I said, just don't let them lie and bullshit me. Do whatever they want in the street out there. I don't care. But say that I did it by the book. You started the fight. We finished it. And there's 20 Americans or 20 other non-combatants that now live because of my decision.
Oh, man. I just think... I don't think anybody would have thought that you did anything wrong. I think those kind of sentiments would have stayed in Iran. I think when the stories come out and people hear the realities of what happened, I mean, we see that all the time, right? We see on the news, like the propaganda, the bullshit, this story comes out and then a week or two later we find out it was bullshit, or months later we find out it was bullshit. It's crazy that you were thinking of that in that moment, because I don't know. What can you think? Again, I imagine a million things went through your mind in that day that you waited and thinking that this was it for me,
Especially when they came to get me, and I couldn't even walk. I couldn't stand up. They had to help me in my arms, and we were walking up these steps, I remember, and the thing, and when you read it in the book, Justin, it stunk so bad every day. It was horrifying. The feces, the blood, there's no air, no sunlight down there. It was like living in a toilet bowl. I swear to God, it's like living in an outhouse, down below. Anyway, so when they came to get me, and they said the American cell number 5, they just called me, and I couldn't come out. I couldn't move. I couldn't even crawl. They came down, they picked me up my arms, these goons, and drugged me. My toe was broken, and they were just dragging my feet, and I couldn't even walk. I said, fuck it, just shoot me now, goddammit. Just put it in my fucking mouth and blow my brains out. And, you're in such pain, you're in such desperation, and we're trying to walk up these steps, and I could feel because the air was a lot more cold upstairs, and it wasn't quite as stenchy and nasty. And also I said, I'm getting near, a little fresher air. And we were getting ready to climb up these metal steps that led to the roof. And that's where the rifling squad was, the rifle squad. It's when they're going to shoot you with a rifle, they're going to shoot you on the roof. And that way they get to store your body off. Again, when you look at pictures of Evin Prison, do your due diligence and get pictures of it. I got them in the book. And say there was lots of people down there below that would go check the body to see if it was their brother, their husband, or somebody they knew. And they said, no, that's not mine. And then somebody else check him out, see if he's yours, go bury him somewhere. God knows what I was going to do anyway. So we're climbing these steps, and they're trying to push me to get up the steps. And I mean, I just cannot use my feet to step on the next step. And that interpreter guy comes running back down the hallway, and I'm looking at this door, and I'm saying, God, I got about 8 more steps. I get up there, and then, it's going to be over. Then, God, thank you, Lord. I'll be done with this pain, mental and physical pain. And he comes running over, screaming Farsi that these 2 goons had, and there was another guy there, and they went at it in Farsi, things like that. And next thing I know is they're taking me back down these steps, and they drug me down the hallway to another end of a corridor, which another set of steps. I said, okay, what is this fight? How much more torture can my head take?
Yeah.
And, so they take me down a hallway, and there's no elevators, so it's all steps everywhere. They might have had elevators. I never fucking saw them. And, so we get up to a hallway to these steel gated bars, and they're dragging me down. Now, for the first time, and I don't know how long, this regular light, regular air, and it's a hallway that's got offices in it and light, and I can see light through the window. And I said, oh my God, where the fuck are we? Okay. And so they put me in this little office, and I said, sit me in a chair there. I could barely, keep myself up. And I mean, it's got a phone in it, and it looks like somebody's got an office, And I said, Jesus Christ. And they walked out. They just left me there. And I said, okay. These 2 guys in suits come in. I said, oh, not you motherfuckers again. I mean, don't you ever fucking get tired of this crap, man? Just what kind of sick jollies do you guys get? And I was totally wrong. These guys come in and introduce themselves as they had a German accent, and they introduced themselves as members of the International Red Cross. I said, yeah, right. And I'm Pinocchio. So they showed me their credentials, and I said, no, we're here from the International Red Cross. We're here to. I wouldn't say rescue, but I still hear their voice saying here to release you. I said, release me.
5 minutes earlier, you thinking you're walking to your death.
Well, it's going to blow my fucking brains out.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, oh, yeah. I said, just do me now, goddammit. And he said, no. He said, what happened is that the whole time that they were negotiating, trying to find me, and I forwarded it, is that they didn't know where I was. After the embassy had been seized, they did a head count, and they had found out, that I was missing, and that the other 2 Marines said, yeah, he's been shot, and we saw him, taken out. So they went over to the hospitals. They're looking all over for me, unbeknownst to me. So that's why when they went to the hospital, nobody said, no, he wasn't here. We didn't see him. Remember that picture I told you about?
Mm-hmm.
Saved my life. Miracle number 4. That picture says, look him right there. See that? This is that room. This is that orderly. That's that nurse. He was here. Now where the fuck is he? And that's what started the whirlwind. And then when it got out without me knowing it again, they said, oh, yeah, well, yes, he's been found. He's going to go on trial for it. He said, no, he ain't. Yes, he is. No, he ain't. Yes, he is. And Jimmy Carter finally said, it's not a good idea. Too bad. He's been found guilty. What? So they were negotiating the whole time behind that. And little did I know. And this was going through France, through the top channels. I was all over the fucking news everywhere for what the news was. There was no internet. Remember that?
Yeah.
So it's just, what's coming out in the newspapers and on the BBC and whatever. And so they say, no. And they gave me a real quick synopsis, 2-paragraph, whatever. And I said, really? You want me to believe that shit? And at this point, man, Justin, whenever I tell this part of the story, so they said, no. He says, the Iranians are not going to release you to Americans. They're going to release you to the International Red Cross. somebody doesn't have a dog in a fight in either way. Always there, touchy-feely, and they need the good PR. There's no sense that die down here, anything, it's only going to go against them. They were in a lot of trouble. They needed money. They needed a lot of people to help them with the revolution, and this is not the way to get it.
Yeah.
It was beyond my pay grade for that. What am I supposed to say? So he says, I said, okay, suppose I believe you. Now what? And he says, they're going to turn us over to you. We're going to turn you over to the embassy. Oh, yeah? Really? And then they pointed down with the doors open, probably about 50 feet down this little hallway, as I see a familiar face. He's in a London fog, light brown, wool, nice coat. And I'm looking at him. And it's hard because it was so dark down there with just a little light bulb that now you're trying to, see things like that. And I go, fuck. I know that guy. I know the thing. He turns around and he saw me and he starts walking over and as he's walking saying, God damn, I know this guy. And he says, Ken, you're alive. I said, English. I said, Jack Schellenberger. And he said, embassy officer. I said, you're alive. And he said, oh my God, Ken, we've been looking for you. We don't know where you've been. And I said, what happened? I had all these questions, and I don't remember asking these questions, but I know they were rolling around in my head. And he says, we're here to take you home, Ken. I couldn't believe it. The clothes that I had, in the book, I'll describe them. There was like these black pajamas in the bottom. And then they had a shirt that I had, a blue smock shirt that already had bullet holes in it. For the last poor prick that was wearing the damn thing. Yeah, his blood and whatever. God. That's all I had. Anyway, so I grabbed him. I tried to stand up in the chair, and I fell down. He grabbed me, and we fell to our knees, and I started crying. And I said, going home? He goes, yeah, all the way home, Ken. And I didn't believe it, man, that they had fucked up my head so bad. I still couldn't believe it. I thought maybe they already shot me, and this is something I'm hallucinating with the last bit of oxygen still going around my neurons. And the weird thing is that I had to smell his cologne. I'm holding him, and he's holding me. I smell his cologne. I said, no, this is real. This is real. And I'm holding him. I almost want to bite him to make sure he's real. You know what I mean? And the Red Cross guys come back in. They had, clothes for me, and I changed, and they looked at the wounds, and they said, make sure. I don't know. I can't remember if they took pictures or not. They wanted to take pictures. I was just so focused on, and then he gave me some shoes, and, then we walked out. We walked out of Evin Prison right after, and I looked back at these bastards, and we walked out to the double gates, and I remember smelling the first time that I drove in there, and it was at night, and I don't know, I remember I could smell the diesel fuel from the vehicles that they were using, and I smelled the same diesel fuel when I left. And whenever I smell diesel fuel all my life, that brings back that memory. Damn. They put us in a car, and I had another embassy guy and a Farsi police officer in the front and a chauffeur, and off we went. I remember looking over my shoulder, and the last view I ever saw of Evin Prison, and he drove back to the embassy, and he says, gave me a little synopsis of what happened and where I've been and what happened. I said, how long have I been here? He said, we've been looking for you for 8 days. 8 days? Fuck, I thought in there for 8 weeks, 8 months. I said, yeah, time deprivation and fear and pain and everything else, it'll do that to you. And he says, I said, we're going back to the embassy. He says, the ambassador and his staff have some questions they want to talk to you. I said, well, I got a bunch of fucking questions for him too.
Like, where was my fucking rifle? You sons of
exactly.
bitches.
No
Fuck.
Shit. And that's in the book. I go, yeah, where the fuck are my rifle? And,
damn.
I got back to the embassy, and a Marine Guard comes in, and it was weird because the Marines they were still there. The embassy, the Calc terrorists had been run off by the police and some other units. That Khomeini at the time, the Mujahideen, didn't like the Fedayeen, and none of them liked the U.S. Marine. That's the way that was going. And so they supposedly came to save and everything. But I said, when I got there, I looked at him and said, the Marines are still standing post. None of them were armed. So they said, yeah, they got the embassy back, but they weren't armed that time. They had taken it away, and now it was under protection of Khomeini, that he looks like the hero and saved the Americans at that point. 9 months later, down the road in November, shit changes.
Yeah,
Didn't need us so much. Didn't need us so much. So that night we had a briefing, and I couldn't eat anything. My stomach was, and I said, I got a shower, shit shower, shaved, cleaned, sponge bath because I couldn't take a shower or anything, and I was so freaked out that after we talked with the embassy staff, some officers in the military, I don't know who the fuck they were, they were trying to ask questions of, did I do this? Did I do that? Yes, 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 whatever. Did you fire at Iranians? I said, I fired at Iranians. You already know the fucking answer to that. Are you trying to, it was more like an interrogation than it was anything else. You fucking you're dead and dying out there. Ask the other 2 Marines that were here. I mean, they fucking saw it. They don't put you on death. They don't put you on fucking trial for your life for killing people if ain't no bodies. Okay, we know there's bodies out there. So I've been so freaked out is that from where I was living in that cell with those other Iranians, and I come back here and I said, look, now nobody's got any weapons or anything that's going on. Who's going to fucking protect us? Some of the people that I just drove through the gate and saw, they were the same sons of bitches that fucking attacked us. So, I mean, it scared me so much that even when I stayed in the ambassador's residence that night, I couldn't sleep in the bed. I could not get, to my head that, they weren't just going to come in and fucking stab me to death. That's how fucking paranoid I was. I barricaded the door to the bedroom, and I slept in the closet. Isn't it fucking freaky?
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not surprised, man. It's a fucked up situation. How long were you at the embassy before you went home?
Oh, that right there, 24 hours the next day. They told me that the next day they gave me a brief. They said, yeah, we're going to take you to the airport. You're going to be put on a plane and you're going to be evacuated out. I said, well, yeah, that's great. No, fantastic. Well, it wasn't evacuation. That's what they called it. Okay. They saved me and they evacuated. I got a picture of me. I got a picture. Another miracle. Got a photograph of me at Meribat Airport, goons on each side, brandishing weapons, holding me and escorting me to the plane. And their version of it, I was being deported because I had 24 hours to get out of Iran, or they were going to come to the embassy and execute me, and nobody could stop them. I was under what they call a fatwa, which is now an order by Islamic court, been found guilty and adjudicated. They can kill me anywhere, anytime, for any reason. You already been found guilty.
What do they call that, a blood libel or something like that?
Exactly what it is, fatwa.
That's crazy,
so,
dude.
Oh, yeah, I mean... So I get on the, they pushed me on this plane. I think it was a C9. I don't know. It's a commercial liner. I don't remember what it wasn't. It wasn't English, but they put me on there, and the guy, the mullah's guys there, they're saying this is an official, statement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have been found guilty, under a fatwa. You ever return to Iran? For any reason, we can execute you. And I said, hey, you motherfucker, let me tell you something. If I ever come back to this shithole again, it's going to be a fucking B-52, you prick.
I'm going to come back and kill you, actually.
Yeah, you and everybody with your DNA.
Fuck, man.
Oh, yeah. So on the plane I get, and, it's still freaking me out that 12 hours ago, I was going to be executed. And now I'm sitting in a window looking at these bastards getting ready to, push back and, take off on a plane. And, the weird thing is, here's it goes crazy in your head, is that the whole time I sat there with my finger sitting in the window, just looking the other way. So I know they're watching me. They love to fucking just shoot me. You know what I mean? Because I killed their buddies and for whatever reason, they just want me to death. And the plane, they close it up and then the plane starts backing out like that. And then it stops and it rolls forward again. So it detached from the building, and whatever the pilot was doing, I don't know. And then the fucking thought hit my head: have I returned? Is this a technicality of he left in a plane, now he returned? Then I'm just going to come on, just shoot me in my goddamn seat? This is the kind of paranoia, mental, like, but what if? The Twilight Zone, the outer limits. From when you're thinking about it, you go, holy cow. But eventually we backed out again and rolling down the runway, and wheels up, and everybody, the few other people that were on the plane, I bet you there wasn't 20 people on that freaking plane. It could fit 200. And as we'd have wheels up, and when them wheels went up, I went, oh my God. And I look out the window, and it starts to turn and bank over that fucking city. And I just said, oh God. I said, it's unbelievable. So we're flying for a while. I don't know how long it was. And next thing you know, somebody's saying, there's military jets outside the goddamn airplane. I said, what? Wake me up. I do the best I can to with my ribs and my toe and my coccyx bone, my stomach, and my stitches. And the funny thing is, they stitched it together with staples, and then they just wrapped it with this like duct tape. So you ever see? I got a scar on my stomach and chest that looks like an NFL football. It's hideous, like Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. That's what I was about to say.
Exactly. So I had to see this, I sure as shit. I look out. We're looking at these guys out the window, and there are F-4 Phantoms, one on each side of each wing, and they're loaded with ordnance. And remember, I'm the air traffic controller. I know what the fucking F-4 was. Yeah. Marine Corps Air Station Buford, we have 5 F-4 Phantoms. I know what a fucking Phantom looks like, and I know what a Sidewinder. I know what a Sparrow looks like. So I said, holy shit, they're loaded fucking bear. And again, here comes the paranoia, Justin. Are they going to shoot this fucking plane down and kill me and everybody aboard and say, oh, it was a mistake? Or, this is how fucking paranoid you are.
Yeah.
And the pilot comes on board a few minutes later, and he's saying, okay, we are approaching Turkish airspace, which borders Iran up there. And sure as shit, just a few seconds after that, the Phantoms peel off, and they're out of sight. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, whatever, the pilot says, we have now entered Turkish airspace, which, by the way, is a NATO country. Everybody went into cheers. I was so full of tears of joy. And then he rocked the wings, and everybody's, oh my God. And the flight attendant, he went and got some little bottles of champagne or whatever. I didn't give a fuck what it was. Just give me something. I got this shit, man. And the flight continued to Frankfurt, Germany, where I was met with by the embassy staff, and that was things changed from there, and that's where we were talking about the gunnery sergeant that was giving me that worked with Carlos Hathcock. That's where I met him, and go on in the book, and another day later they cleaned me up, checked me out medical wise, did the best they possibly could, and on the plane home to the C-141, and I still remember the tail number, 10040. I used to use it as a PIN number, but I don't do it anymore. And it was a flight number, and they told me that they said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have it was a captain that was on board, and he's going to give you a brief, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I was at the embassy leaving, I was given a package, and I put it up underneath my my jacket, and no one ever saw it. And I'm gonna have to leave this for you because you're gonna have to read the book to find out what was there. And I was told, make sure this gets out of the country, make sure people see this, but do not open it until you're on the plane. And this was an embassy guy that I know works for some fucking department over there. I said, okay, fine. I'm not even gonna question it. If it just wants me and my ass and this thing to get on that plane, where do I call?
Yeah.
I'm out of here. And so on the plane, I had that package, and we never opened it or looked at it until I got the next day after Frankfurt and debriefed and told what's going on. The plane coming home, C-141, Starlift, regular military aircraft, and they had a captain on there that sat down and gave me the what to and all the information of 411 and what happened. And I said, are you kidding me? 8 days and around the world? He goes, you were one of the most important people for 48 hours, Sergeant. That could have started a war. He said, you're going to get more classified briefings and figure out what. But they were looking for you, and if they had executed you, he says, the president was going to come in with a special operations unit to save what's left of the embassy, so it didn't happen to all his people. And Who knows what would have happened to that mission? It would have went south and sour, of course. And then you would have had an initial crisis, because now it's not going to be a SWAT team that comes after you to save the Americans. You're coming in with the 82nd Airborne. You're coming with 300.
Yeah.
Save you. And then that would be what? Tantamount to opening that country back up again, and almost like another military coup.
Mm-hmm.
We'd put our own puppet back in there again, and I just, oh my God, this reads like a fucking Tom Clancy book. This is insane. He goes, yeah.
And you're a main character.
Remember the Maine? Remember the Alamo?
How long did it take? How long did it take for you? I mean, I don't think that's something you ever get over, or you ever fully recover from, if you want to use those words. How long did it take for you to feel like you were normal again?
Oh my God, you got to meet my friends and family. You got to meet my coworkers, because I cannot attest to ever being freaking normal. What is normal? When you get told, it's like this.
Well, how long before you weren't barricading your doors and sleeping in closets?
Still not.
Really?
One of the saving graces, what I'm saying, is that I went on to be a tactical SWAT officer, Department of Energy, nuclear couriers, armed to the teeth. The best I can tell you right now at Liberty is that no one in the world has ever seriously tried to hijack a nuclear convoy. Mm-hmm. Ain't gonna happen. You might as well try to take the weapons off a nuclear submarine. It's even worse than that. And where this plays into is saying then, once I left DOE, I stayed out as a police officer, a police detective. I've always had weapons or used weapons all the time. Next to my bed, I have. When I sleep at night, it's always I wear dark clothes. Because if I got to get in a firefight or I got to get in a fight at night, I don't want to present you with a nice white T-shirt. Always like this, or nothing at all.
That's crazy. It's not crazy, but it's just wild to think about that it changed everything about your thinking, and like even today you wear dark T-shirts. I mean, that's so, to the average person that's never even been in the military or ever had any kind of anywhere near an experience like that, that's like, what? That's crazy, It's like a lot of people, you'll look at military people and they won't want to sit with their back to a door or something like that.
No.
And we all kind of get that. Like everybody kind of gets that. But because of your situation, you're like at another level of that heightened, sense of just wanting to, I don't know, be ready. You know what I'm saying? Just in case kind of situation.
I've always carried, like here, even a 10, I just carry it like this. For signing things, that's a weapon. Hand-to-hand combat, when they started MMA, I mean, that was one of the greatest things I ever thought. Great, you're taking mixed martial arts and other sports and judo and stuff and putting it together. I said, that was amazing. Went and trained with that all the time. I will never, ever just lay down again and be a hostage. You're going to have to beat me to death, okay? You talk about the going into restaurants and things like that, always get a table or the bar, because I want to be able to use a stool. I want to be able to use a chair, defend myself, or to back away from that table. I don't sit in booths. I can't stand it. I'm claustrophobic. So I said, well, we want to sit in a booth. You sit in a booth. I'll pull up a chair and sit at the end of it. It's that way. When I drink, when I have, you'll see sitting at the bar. Usually, if I'm drinking the beer, it's usually in a mug. You have a bang, not just a glass, a mug. Because with a mug, I can swing. I'm not paranoid, and I'm not been in bar fights for forever. But things that could go wrong, that I have seen gone wrong with other people, I go, when I'm shooting pool like that, I'm not even ready to get up to shoot the game of pool. I got a cue stick in my hand, and just standing there, just watching, feeling it. Yeah. But it gives me the sense of security, not paranoia. Because if I'm paranoid, I wouldn't be there to begin with. You know what I mean? But even at night, every room in my house, wherever I am, has a weapon. Edged weapon, firearm, and a flashlight. I have more little tactical flashlights than I can count. Seriously. In my car, in my truck, everywhere. Because you come in after me. Remember, I'm under a fatwa. And twice since I've been home in the United States, I've had a run-in and a problem. We'll talk about it again another time, with Persians, Iranians, that have seeked me out and caused a little bit of problems in my life.
No way.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And one got so bad, I got him deported back to Iran.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Because, see, if they don't get you, they're going to get your wife, your kids, drive-by shooting, you know, your animal. What are they going to do? You know? Man. Remember, they see me as a bastard American CIA Marine commando that, you know, got away with you know, killing their buddies and all like that, got whisked out of their country, and they want to get their hands on me. But now I'm a law enforcement officer. I'm a street cop. How easy is it, you know, to find out where I work, pull out in front of me, make me stop and do a traffic stop, and blow my brains out, or have somebody while I'm talking to the female there, somebody drive by and put one in the back of my head.
Yeah, straight up ambush.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't think that doesn't play in your mind once in a while, you always got to.
Man, how does that? I mean, how can? That's just such a shitty way to live life, though, man. You know, and it just is what it is. There's nothing that you or I or anybody else could do about it. It's just the circumstances that surround everything. You know, with what happened, but what a fucking rough way to live life.
You can get used to it and live with it within what you call normal means. So it's not so overt and people don't think you're so wacko. But it's the people that you meet in the future that you know have to explain to them again and again and again and again and again. Why are you like that? Because like I say, you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. You're normally going to change and with your geography where you're at, your environment, the decades of the different politics and things that go. You're normally going to change anyway. Yeah. But there's going to be that little core that's inside you that's always going to remember this, you know, and that you're always there. And then when you you know, you go through some hectic things on the police department, on the force. And then we said, well, oh, now we know where Iran and Iraq is. Yeah. Now you know where Beirut is. Yeah. Oh, now we got a first attack on the towers in New York. Whoa. Osama who? Oh, yeah. Oh, now we got a 9/11. Now you wake the fuck up. Huh? And they're not going away. They're not going away. What are you going to do? Kill them? Sure. Let two more pop up.
Yeah.
They don't fear death. We talked about the Besiege earlier. Remember? They were children. How do you let these mullahs come in here, these recruiters, and take your children knowing that they're going to be brainwashed to run across open minefields? Explain that to me. Tell me that's normal.
That's crazy. Yeah. No, you're right, man. Well, Ken, man, this has been a great interview. This has been, you know, I think it's a story that people need to hear about. A lot of people have heard about the Iranian Revolution, and they've seen, like, Argo and stuff like that, talking about the embassy being taken over. That was later on, if I understand correctly. Yeah. But
by the way, I'm a technical advisor and on Argo for.
Oh, were you?
Yep. Also, when Ross Perot had his, do you remember Ross?
Yeah.
Little guy down there in Dallas,
He's got the
Texas.
big ears.
Yeah, he might run for president. Yes. Well, anyway, he was a CEO or owner of EDS, Electronic Data Systems. They were there to in the Middle East and in Iran at the time to bring up the Social Security numbers or their type of version of Social Security and bring them into the 21st century per se. Anyway, so two of his CEO and CFO were both captured, and the book is called On Wings of Eagles by Ken Follett, and they made a movie about it which starred Burt Lancaster. And they hired, basically they hired a mercenary when he was out, he's an Army colonel, to go in and actually get the CEO and CFO. It was Paul Scipione and Bill Gaylord. And went in, they were in the prison that I was in.
Damn, and I never even heard of that.
Google it, it's on, or whatever, it's on Wings of Eagles. And it's a book and it's a movie. Also, there's one I'm named very prominently, and they talk about, because they asked me in there, Ross Perot had told the State Department, says, look, I'm not waiting anymore. They're going to put these guys on trial. And now they're telling me, because they're worth money and I'm a billionaire. And he goes, so I'm not putting up with that shit. And the State Department was stalling him. So he went and he's hired his own guys. They went in there. And in the meantime, they took him out of Evin Prison, took him over to Quasar Prison, another one. And they went in there and they assaulted the guards and took him and got him out across Turkey again.
That's crazy.
And then the rise and fall of the Shah. There's a whole chapters on there of what happened to me, and the story that is told that I never even knew, because they never interviewed me for it. They interviewed all the Marines and the people at the State Department, which verifies my story in my book. So there's several books out there and a couple movies that reference me and talk about that. So
well, where can people find your book at?
This one here you can get on Amazon Book. It's or you can go to my website, kenkraus.com. That's KenKraus.com. That'll take you right to a link towards it.
Nice.
And there's three options there. You got a paperback, you have a hardcover, and then you have the special edition, which I don't want to upsell anybody, but it has a lot more pictures in it, graphic pictures that the other books don't. It also has debrief sessions that were finally declassified when I came back that now I can put out there. And it's got a lot more photographs besides that people never seen before. And a little bit more of the whirlwind tour when I got back. That flight that was coming in from Germany that was bringing me in. And then I got my debrief on that. That's in there. And that's a jaw dropper. And that'll probably be miracle number 6. I remember this is a good one that because I was an air traffic controller, just as the birds getting in, approaching Andrews Air Force Base, the pilot had got hold of the captain, asked me to come up to the cockpit. I said, okay, fine. Come up there and, hey guys, how you doing? He goes, there's somebody here that wants to talk to you. And he gives me, really? And he gives me the headphone. I put the headsets on, and this guy with a New York accent comes on, and he says, hey, is there a Marine sergeant on that board, that bird? I said, yeah, Sergeant Kenneth Kraus here, sir. And he says, this is so-and-so from JFK Airspace. You have now entered. It busts me up every time. He goes, you have just entered American airspace. Welcome home, Marine. Job well done. And I remember it said his initials, because that's when you sign off, last thing you're saying. And I said, Kilo Mike. He said, Kilo Mike, which was his operating initials. And he knew I was an air traffic controller. I said, thank you, sir. Kilo. And that was the last one I talked to. And then the bird landed in Andrews. But to be welcomed home like that, because he was a Marine and an air traffic controller. And he said, I just want to be the first one to welcome you home.
That's awesome, dude.
You see it. Yeah.
You're getting me emotional, dude.
50 years ago, bro.
That's crazy. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. I hope people. I'm gonna put your the link to your website in the description, the show description, so people can go there and check it out. I highly recommend people go and get your book and read more about the situation and everything, and kind of educate themselves about the situation. Honestly, dude, you're one of the best guests I've ever had on. I really appreciate you coming on, Ken Kraus. It's been great. I want to say thank you to Eddie Molina for linking us up. And that's really it, man. I mean, everybody can check my stuff out. Former Action Guys, Former Action News on Instagram. My website's J Kramer Graphics, and AngloCoastShop.com. That's it. I really appreciate you coming on, dude.
My pleasure, sir. Honor and privilege.